Up until yesterday, Michael Schumacher had never been on pole in Belgium. Not anymore.
Here comes the pole lap for Michael. Let's see what it is. 1:43.726.
Up until yesterday, Kimi Räikkönen had never been on the front row of a Grand Prix grid. Not anymore.
He's gone absolutely to the limit of the circuit of his car.
Up until yesterday, no Jaguar had got higher than the fifth row of the grid all season. Not anymore.
Yeah, I'm quite happy, especially Eddie being in 8th position, which we all know is a good racer. So I think a very good result for this year's season.
But not everyone was happy. VAR had a frightening day as Olivier Panis blew up. And teammate Jacques Villeneuve tried to see if the car was any better going backwards. Might need some help on the aerodynamic shack. Jordan also had a hairy day as Giancarlo Fisichella tried the gravel route as well, but at least he was going forwards. And as for Williams, well, Ralf Schumacher just about finished his call in time to out-qualify Juan Pablo Montoya, who had one run aborted by Kimi Räikkönen and who explained exactly what happened in his best Spanish.
Räikkönen, what a idiot!
Full translations available by sending a very small donation to my home address. Now then, Jeremy Hart and Damon Hill are on duty again. Damon, you had the odd altercation in your time. Who do you think was to blame for that one?
Well, I mean, I've always blamed myself for all of my problems that I've had on the track. Which particular one were you referring to, though?
Well, I was thinking more, not so many of the many that you had, but the one that Juan Pablo had here with Kimi.
In this situation, I would definitely say the blame is Kimi's, because he should have been, he knows it's qualifying, he should have been looking in his mirrors earlier. And I think Juan Pablo was justified because Kimi actually changed his mind. He looked like he was going to do one thing, then he did it, and then he changed his mind. I mean, he did his best to get out of the way, but he shouldn't have been going that slowly there, that particular spot on the track. So Montoya quite justifiably upset.
I think Montoya frustrated generally with his qualifying performance in recent weeks.
Yes, I mean, he seems to blow hot and cold, doesn't he? He sometimes gets it together and other times... I mean, there's no question that the determination and the skill is there, but I think sometimes he has trouble setting his car up or finding the best setup for his car.
Situation normal. Michael at the top. Amazed to find out that he hadn't been on pole in Belgium before. Yeah, right. But McLaren very close, and Kimi Räikkönen in particular. Do you think he has a chance this afternoon?
It's going to take Michael to trip up, I think, for Räikkönen really to have a chance. I mean, he showed that great speed in qualifying, but he never got the perfect lap together. He was great in sections, but never got the 1, 2 and 3 sections together absolutely perfectly. Otherwise, he really would have pushed Michael, but I don't think in the race that he's going to be that close. I think the Ferrari's out on its own.
Further down the grid, but not much further down the grid for a change this Sunday, Jaguar and Eddie Irvine. What chance they have of actually getting in the points, perhaps?
Well, the first thing to say is that you cannot qualify 8th on the grid here without having a fairly good car. There's no sort of trickery to this. It wasn't like it was a wet session. The car must have been. They must have found a good setup for the car, and now he's got a good chance of getting some points if he can just keep that momentum up. And Nicky Lauda's right. I mean, Eddie Irvine is a good racer. He's got a lot of experience, and he'll be able to deliver them some points if the car's capable of doing it.
This could actually make a huge difference to Eddie, that he's now got a couple of races to really knuckle down and prove what a great racer he is, because Jaguar are in a state of turmoil. They've got to work out exactly what their plans are for next year and who their drivers are going to be, and Eddie could see himself without a job unless he proves in the next couple of races here and in Monza that he really still is a great racer.
No race is complete without a potential disaster, and it comes in the shape of the Saubers this time out. What on earth is going on there?
Well, actually, all the Bridgestone runners suffered over the last qualifying session, and you know, they may have suffered more than most in that situation. But Sauber, again, they tend to start the season well. Traditionally, they seem to start the season well, and then they seem to lose their way towards the end of the season. But even so, this is a poor performance for them in qualifying.
Well, in a moment, we'll concentrate on the here and now. But first, let me peer into my crystal ball to see if I can predict what's going to happen in 2003. I see a tall stranger. Maybe he's just strange.
With just 3 races to go after this one, the driver lineups for 2003 are becoming clear. Here's a roundup of which drives are confirmed and which ones are still up for grabs. In 2003, Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello will be driving for Ferrari. Did we really believe that Michael would retire before trying to take a record-breaking 6th World Drivers' Championship? There is also status quo at McLaren as David Coulthard is staying for a 7th year, joined for the 2nd year in succession by Kimi Räikkönen. Ralf Schumacher has a contract with Williams BMW for 2003, while Juan Pablo Montoya has just signed a 2-year contract extension. Sauber have signed 2 German drivers for next year. Nick Heidfeld stays with the team for a 3rd season, joined by compatriot Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Felipe Massa is stepping down. He may race elsewhere, but also he might stay on as the team's test driver. Jordan have no plans to make any driver announcements just yet, although both Giancarlo Fisichella and Honda's golden boy Takuma Sato have contracts for 2003. There's speculation aplenty, particularly now that Honda will no longer be supplying the team with engines next year. Toyota sprung the surprise of the event by announcing that neither of their current drivers, Mika Salo nor Alan McNish, will be with them next season. Olivier Panis joins the team, which takes him out of the running at BAR. And this is yet another team not yet willing to announce its full driver lineup for 2003. David Richards wasted no time in announcing the signing of Jenson Button, but the identity of the 2nd BAR driver remains a matter of conjecture. Jacques Villeneuve has a contract that has yet to be confirmed, even though he's just turned down the advances of a leading Champ Car team. We already know that Fernando Alonso and Jarno Trulli will be driving for Renault in 2003. But Jaguar are not saying who their drivers will be, or indeed even when they'll announce their driver lineup. So this means that this year's drivers, Pedro de la Rosa and Eddie Irvine, as well as Minardi's Mark Webber, are all still in with a shout. It looks as though arrows will be sold, but as seen from events this weekend, it's all very complicated, and so the driver lineup for 2003 is the least of the issues concerning this team. There is also some question about who will own Minardi, which again could have some bearing on just who their drivers will be. Will they be able to design a tub around the 6'3" frame of Justin Wilson? Current drivers, Mark Webber, Anthony Davidson or Alex Young may be back, but other candidates include Brian Herter, Jos Verstappen and Giorgio Pantano.
So that's the future, but now for the present. Michael Schumacher was really fed up with being told he'd never been on pole position in Belgium, so he made sure no one could ever tell him again. The world occupied the top 6 places. Everybody happy then? Well, since you ask.
You ask me very difficult questions this weekend. You know I'm not very good describing feelings of what happens in the car. Obviously, you feel a big enjoyment to run such a car at this level, at this speed, and when everything is simply right.
Kimi, congratulations on a fantastic lap. You're talking to Ron Dennis. He's disappointed you're not on the pole.
Yeah. I think so. It's always before you in the first place. Of course, I'm not so happy also because I think so. We had the speed today to be able to get pole or at least get very close. But the last run was a bit messy because there was loads of people going out same time, some sand on the circuit, and got a bit wide on the double left-hander. But in the end, this second is better than 11th last race.
Well, you were saying before qualifying you weren't completely happy with the balance. How, in fact, was it in qualifying?
It was a lot better, a lot better. In fact, I could quite easily take the high speeds a lot better with the car more settled. Low speed, I was struggling a little bit, but my problem in qualifying was more with the traffic, because I was quite happy. I would have been 2 to 3 tenths away from Michael, which is quite good because I made different choices, so I'm quite happy.
To race against Ferrari was difficult in the past, so it will be difficult tomorrow. Even McLaren has been better in races than we were usually, or quicker sometimes, so it's going to be a difficult and tough race. Only the weather could make it even more difficult.
Even in the last lap it was the same thing. It was just too much traffic and I lost a bit of time with Jenson. Up to then I was actually just over a tenth quicker than Ralph. So, you know, P3 was very realistic.
Kimi must be very happy with that front row position. Gives him a really good chance to lead into the first corner. You know, I opted for a different strategy in the tyre, so on the belief that it might give me a better race performance. And whether that enables me to overtake or not in the race, we're hoping that we'll be slightly more chance here in Spa than say in Budapest.
That's the top 6. Let's have a chat with our top 2 about the top 6, in fact the whole grid. But I'd like to start, if I could, Damon, by talking about the Williams drivers. Ralph is certainly a lot happier when he's faster than Juan. He's been happy for a few weeks now. Is that rivalry simmering, or is it a boiling point, do you think?
I think they're very different characters, and I think that that Ralph is affected more, I think, by not performing well than Montoya is. And but it seems to me quite obvious when he's done well, he feels he's done. It feels like that is a problem for him. If his teammate is quicker than him, he gets very down. And the moment he's qualified ahead of him, he's not so concerned about where he is on the grid as long as he's ahead of his teammate. And so, still some things that he's got the ability, Ralph, but he's still concerned about other factors. I think that seem to intrude on his driving, which doesn't affect Montoya. He's not bothered in the least.
Jeremy,
it's quite an interesting comparison between this year and this time last year between the two Williams teammates, because one really got Ralph rattled towards the end of the last year, and Ralph was just all over the place mentally, and he seems a lot stronger now, a lot better equipped to deal with Juan Pablo and his very strong personality than he was last year. So I think they're on a mental level than they were last year, so that's quite interesting.
Other teammates of note, the McLaren drivers. Now, David there seems perfectly calm and not going to rise to any awkward questions, but he must be slightly bothered that the younger man is storming away at this time.
Well, it does seem that he's always the bridesmaid, and every year he's signed for a 7th year in McLaren, and there's always someone, a new teammate, who always seems to be able to take the shine and also get the affection of people like Ron Dennis, you know, who Ron was clearly brimming with when someone asked him about the moment that Kimi Räikkönen had in qualifying, where he put a wheel off on the dirt. He could see him suppressing a smile, saying, "Yeah, well, he's brave, isn't he?" You know, you could see the kind of fatherly pride he had in his charge, which isn't there for David. And David's just going to have to live with that. You know, he always has to get through, and he does do a good job, David. But it's always, you know, there's this little bit. What more does he have to do to make people believe in him? And there's always that element with David.
Pairing, the Ferrari pairing. Michael's out there at the front. If we look at the grid, we can confirm that his teammate isn't second but third this time, which must be something of a disappointment. But there's nothing in Barrichello's body language so far this weekend to suggest that he doesn't think he has a chance of winning. In fact, some might have argued that he came first last time out. He didn't actually win the race.
I think this is...
All right, let's have a look at the bottom half of the grid. Rock bottom, Anthony Davidson, but that doesn't mean he's worse than anybody else out there. Presumably it's just because he's younger in a slower car.
Well, you have to bear in mind also it's the first time for Anthony Davidson at Spa in the Formula 1 car. He's qualified respectively well. I mean, he's got the car in the race, which is more than Alex managed to do, and he's got reasonably close to Mark Webber. Mark you'd expect to have the advantage over him. So Anthony Davidson now has to do better than he did in the race in Hungary, and Spa can be a tricky one. You know, if it rains, then he's really going to learn a lot.
This is also a crucial one for him because Alex Young comes back in Monza in 2 weeks' time. So Anthony's he did well a couple of weeks ago, but he's really got to show what he's made of, and that he's got the stamina and the speed in a full-length race, especially around somewhere like Spa.
Well, if any of you like a bet on Formula One, now's the time to listen up, because we have one of Formula One's leading tipsters waiting for us in the pit lane. Peter Windsor has been 100% with all his predictions so far this season. So, Peter, who's going to win it?
Kimi Räikkönen.
Well, that's...
I only say that because, you know, let's try and have something different.
Yeah, but how likely do you think it is? Apart from wishful thinking, the sensible thinking would be to stick with Michael or his teammate, wouldn't it?
Yeah, obviously, you know, but everybody else is going to say that, so you've got to try and do something different. But I think there's no question at the moment the Michelin is a better tyre for this circuit as we stand at the moment. And I think the fact that the Ferraris are that close to McLaren is indicative of that. And then you look at the rest of the Bridgestone runners, they're nowhere. So you've got to say the Michelin is the better tyre. And who's in the best shape on Michelin's? Maybe not Kimi, because he's the only one of the top runners on the soft compound. Everybody else has chosen the harder compound. But that's mainly because they blistered the soft tyre pretty quickly into practice on Friday. And presumably Kimi didn't have that problem, so maybe he's got a bit of an edge. We'll wait and see on that. But McLaren do look good here. They ran a new spec engine during qualifying, gave a lot more power than we've seen recently. Obviously they're not racing that, but nevertheless they are ahead in terms of race spec compared with where they were, say, 3 or 4 years ago. Sorry, 3 or 4 races ago.
One of the stories of the weekend so far has been the performance, or lack of it, from the Sauber team. Would you say that there's been an upturn at last in their fortunes, at least going by what we saw in warm-up?
A little bit, yes. I think really what we're seeing at Sauber, indeed we're seeing at Jordan and to some extent at BAR, is just general lack of grip from the Bridgestones. I think their compound is too hard here, and we know that Michelin were able to delay the decision they took on what tyres to build for Spa for a further 4 days, because they build their tyres, of course, in Europe. Bridgestone build those in Japan, and they're able to get a better fix on the weather, and they're pretty right. You know, it's not particularly hot right now in race conditions. So Bridgestone, it looks as if their tyres are a bit hard, and when it is hard, what you see on the Sauber is what you get. Basically no grip. You can have an understeer, oversteer, but the underlying problem is no grip.
Hi, Jeremy here. The talk about the weather and the fact that it's a lot cooler today than it was yesterday for qualifying. Just explain to us in very simple terms exactly how that's going to affect the first 2 or 3 cars on the grid, and in terms of wear as well for the tyres.
Well, I think we, to some extent, have to exclude the 2 Ferraris, although it's interesting, of course, that Rubens is on the harder Bridgestone and Michael's on the softer Bridgestone. So there's a little bit of difference there that may affect the strategy they go for, but in reality, it'll probably help Michael, I would think, in these ambience that we have now. And again, on the Michelin side, you know, you've got to say that Kimi Räikkönen's in pretty good shape being on the softer Michelin. So, you know, pretty good choice for him there. We'll see what happens. You know, it is a question of rear tyre heating here, and whether or not you blister the rears. The Michelins do seem more sensitive to the effect of blisters than the Bridgestones.
Peter, thanks very much. That's where we'll leave it for now, but don't worry, the question about weather is on its way. It's a 4.5-mile lap is the longest circuit on the F1 Roadshow, but what's it like to drive this most famous of tracks? Anthony Davis, our test driver, and today Minardi Grand Prix driver, guides us round Spa-Francorchamps.
Okay, approaching the first corner of the source. It's very hard to keep the back in line here as it steps out under the down change into first gear. On the exit, it's very bumpy over there as you're heading up the main straight up to Eau Rouge. It's downhill, you can see it approaching you. And a slight lift off on entry. And just feel the car go light as you go over the curbs on the exit onto the main straight, where we approach our maximum speed of the circuit, near 180 miles an hour. Main straight's quite bumpy, late braking into turn 3. Use a lot of curb on entry, just where the grip is. Keep the car nice and stable for this corner here. Try not to run out too much curb. Downhill braking into second gear. Understeers really a lot around this corner, using the traction control on the exit. Into third gear, 90-degree left, use a lot of curb on the exit. There's downhill into Pouhon corner, taken in fourth gear. Lots of G's going through the body around here. It's pretty hard to hang on over the curb on the exit. Late braking, you get quite a lot of grip into this right-hander. You've got to keep it quite tight so you get a nice entry to the left. Feed the back out on the exit to the 90-degree right-hander, also in second gear. Fight the car over the bumps going around Stavelot, so you can see there. And you can see actually where the track's yellow from the plank hitting the bottom of the ground. Fully flat, again a bumpy corner, coming into flat out corner. Whoa, over the curbs there. That's not a very good lap there. And into the bus stop, right into first gear, use as much curb as you possibly can, and nail it to the finish line.
Davidson. At the other end of the scale, of course, Michael Schumacher, who today bids to make it 10 wins in a single season and thus break the record he co-owns with our Nigel Mansell. And our Nige is currently in the pit lane with our Bruce.
Nigel Mansell, standing here at Spa-Francorchamps, good to see you. Is it a circuit that is a particular favourite of yours? And also, would you be concerned if it gets dropped from the Formula One calendar? There's talk of that doing the rounds.
Well, it's one of the most sensational circuits in the world because it's very high speed, it's long, it's challenging, and I mean, it's beautiful. And you know, the sun almost might come out this afternoon, so it'll be very sad if they lose the race here.
Now, looking ahead to this afternoon, obviously as a former Ferrari driver, I've seen you popping in and out of their garage. Do you think Michael Schumacher will manage to get that record 10th win, moving one ahead of your record from the past?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, with the reliability record they've had, which is unsurpassed in the history of motor racing, period, on both sides of the Atlantic, the 10th victory literally is only about an hour and 40 minutes away. And what a fantastic achievement. But 5 world titles. But what Ferrari has done literally is unsurpassed in the history of Formula One, just from the point of view of being so quick and reliable.
Now, as a man who's raced here a lot, what would you be thinking now if you were about to go out in 45 minutes, looking at the sky? Do you think we're going to have rain?
Do you know what? If I was a Ferrari driver at the moment, I wouldn't be thinking anything. I'd just be very happy that I was going to be stepping into the Ferrari car. Come rain, come sunshine, come whatever, I think they've got it sorted. And I think they're on 2 different strategies as well, so it'd be interesting. But Ferrari have got everything so under control. It's fantastic.
Nigel, great to see you here. Thanks for talking to us.
Now then, in October we plan to get all our competition winners together to find out which one will actually become the owner of this year's Jaguar R3. Want to be in the mix? That's where you're lying, isn't it? Then this bit will be of interest to you. It's fast, it's furious.
And we're still to know, of course, who Toyota are going to have joining him.
Yeah, it's just looking at the back of the car that there's that third element on the rear wing. So more downforce, we think. It's difficult to tell whether they had on for this morning. We didn't get a really good look at the VARs, but certainly VAR feeling that they need the additional downforce. It may be in part due to temperatures, or maybe overall that they feel that's the best way they can get performance and confidence out of the rear of the car.
So the 2 Ferrari drivers coming through together, and I wonder if that's how they're going to end up finishing this race as well. Never been Schumacher Barrichello 1-2 at Spa before. Maybe this is the opportunity. Barrichello won last time out, of course, in Hungary. But certainly I'm sure that Schumacher is out to try and take that win number 10 of the season, to cap what has been a record-breaking season already, wrapping up the championship earlier than it's ever been done before. Look at the cloud. It's been settling in a little bit over the last hour or so, and still a prospect perhaps of showers later on. Just have to keep a close eye on that weather situation. Pedro de la Rosa prepares to climb aboard the Jaguar. We're just under 2 minutes away now from the pit lane being opened.
Yes, that weather pattern may become a factor. Maybe a little bit later in the Grand Prix may turn up. Of course, teams are able to watch the same pictures that we have here on screen, and they have radio contact with the drivers. So if there's one part of the circuit, for example, Stablo being the lowest part of the circuit, or here literally at the start-finish line, depending where the car is on the track, there is an option to be able to tell the driver it is raining here in preparation either to come in and do a stop if the rain is absolutely torrential, which it can also be, or just simply to warn the driver that there is going to be rain, and to make sure that you keep your eyes aware to see where those wet parts follow the flags. It'll be a yellow and red oil flag, but with the marshal pointing upwards to indicate that the moisture's coming from above. It hasn't come from an engine of a car, as you saw Panis or others do over the weekend.
It's great to watch the expressions on the faces, not only of the drivers and pit crews, but of the spectators out there as well. Some real youngsters here at Spa this weekend to enjoy Formula One at its finest in many ways. The speeds here at Spa, cars travelling over 200 miles an hour at quite a few different points around the circuit. So it really is a chance to see Formula One cars in full cry, a little bit like it will be next time out, of course, in Monza, where they run their only low downforce setup of the entire year.
Yes.
Also against the odds in 1998. Perhaps then this is the right place for Michael Schumacher to claim another record, 10 wins in one season. Now, earlier on you were asking for smoked salmon, and I'm going to embarrass you now by asking you to explain yourself.
Well, it's nearly lunchtime. And
we've got baked beans on toast.
Of course, all these drivers will have stuffed their faces on pasta and all sorts of energy-giving foods for the last 2 days, building up their resources.
I fancy a pizza actually right now, but no, but on the talk of food. But the food intake's crucial, isn't it, for a driver just before a race?
It is crucial. I mean, it's an endurance event as far as an athletic event would be concerned. It's an hour and a half. That's the sort of shortest Grand Prix you have, and the longest will be 2 hours. So all these drivers are now supremely fit. Even the older ones. Are we looking at Pedro de la Rosa now, or are we looking at Eddie Irvine? Just trying to see. I think it's Eddie there. Spa is a physical track. There's a lot of high G corners, and it's not probably as physical as Hungary, but it certainly gets your heart rate going, especially if it's wet.
Well, it's looking grey out of the window, but whether that actually produces any wetness. Now, all the teams this morning were preparing for a wet race. They were getting the setups right for wet as well, just to be prepared. Because obviously things can change very quickly up in the Ardennes Mountains.
Yeah, we're looking up on the onboard camera there from Eddie Irvine's car. You can see blue patches, little fluffy white clouds. So as far as we know, this could be a dry, it looks pretty straightforward there, doesn't it? It doesn't look like there's any...
Well, the cloud's pretty high up. Doesn't look as if it's got too much moisture in it. But I have to say, a wet race, I think, would be very exciting, although Michael, of course, is as good, if not better, in the wet as he is in the dry.
Peter Windsor always asks the team's weather advisors what their predictions are, and they always tell him to go away, because that's why they're paid lots of money. They're not paid to tell him anything, and they're paid to keep it to the team. However, they have told him, the Renault people that is, that both drivers are on soft tyres, and for further explanation, let's join Pat Simmons now, who's with Bruce.
Pat, your cars are going to be 7th and 10th when they go out to the grid. How confident are you that Renault can pick up some points this afternoon?
Well, it's a difficult race here. Personally, I'd like to see the temperatures a lot higher. The tyre we're on is much better suited to a higher track temperature than we've got. It's a long, hard race. It's very hard on the engines, very hard on the cars. And the first corner, of course, is something else here. I don't think it's a race you ever go into with a lot of confidence, but as you say, our grid positions are okay, and they're certainly good enough for a point-scoring finish. So let's see what happens.
Do you think it's going to stay dry throughout? Some people are talking of rain.
No, I believe it is going to stay dry. There's a little bit more cloud than we expected to see, but the rain is still a way away from us. I don't think that's going to trouble us today.
OK, Pat, best of luck. Thank you.
Yes, you did mention the first corner there, Pat, and it's not something we've discussed much so far this weekend, but it's a bit awkward, isn't it? That's not too much of an understatement.
It always produces a drama. There's a lot of argy-bargy going into the first corner. It's incredibly tight, so that cars are almost on full lock just to get round it anyway. So that doesn't give a lot of room for manoeuvre if you have a whole grid of cars trying to get round. So everyone gets squeezed up against the other guy, and you just don't want to let the bloke on the outside, because everyone tries to hug the inside, which means they have to be on full lock to get round, and then suddenly someone swings around the outside, and then you want to get across to try and stop him from doing that, and meanwhile someone comes down the inside. So it's a real struggle.
Some would say it's madness actually having the grid just before such a tight right-hander. Is that why not have the grid on that run down to Eau Rouge instead, round the corner?
Well, I think all the tracks should have a hairpin immediately after the start, quite frankly. I mean, it seems to be the best start you get. Usually you get a good exciting first corner, and it does actually sort everyone else out after that.
It doesn't help in qualifying either, because you just finished a fast lap, or you warm up before you fly, and then you've got to negotiate that corner. Get that wrong, and then you're going around for 4 miles pointlessly.
Well, do you know, you can try 100 different lines around that corner, and it doesn't seem to make a huge difference. This very, very slow corners are extremely difficult to make up time on, and so technically it's not that difficult, and it's actually, it can be quite tedious at times actually.
But you can lose a lot of time. You might not be able to make up time, but you can lose a lot of time if you get it wrong, can't you?
I think that's the frustration. You always feel as you go around a very slow hairpin, there must be a way of coming through here a lot quicker, and when you do try to go through a lot quicker, then the car gets all out of shape and you lose a big chunk of time.
But mentally, doesn't it go against the grain, though, to actually stick your car in first gear whilst you're actually on a flying lap? Because that's what it is, isn't it? It's a first gear corner for most.
Yeah, but these first gears, you can be doing 100 miles an hour in first gear, Jeremy, so it's not like a first gear that we normally regard as a slow gear. You know, it's a very looking at Jeremy Guscott there, I think.
We'll try and get a word with Jeremy Guscott because he's one of the celebrities at the track today, and Bruce is just trying to barge him across the sidelines.
Well, Bruce is actually probably the only bloke in Formula One who's bigger than Jeremy Guscott.
Jeremy Guscott, former England rugby star and British Lions hero. Great to see you at Spa-Francorchamps. You're a regular Grand Prix visitor, aren't you?
I've been to a few. I've been lucky enough through Benson Hedges to be taken out to Montreal. Went to the Austrian one for my first time. I went to the Hungarian one last year, but I've been told so much about Spa and Eau Rouge, the corner there, and we went to see it yesterday. And watching the drivers go through it was incredible. And actually, some of them easing off on the gas, which I thought they'd be, a bit braver and like zoom through it. But even they're still a bit nervy about it.
Obviously, a different sort of bravery required to what you have to play rugby. But do you fancy having a go, getting in a racing car?
I'm like any other man. You still have boy dreams, and just to be this close to the cars, it's fantastic. It's exactly what you see. Scale Electrics, as a kid, the way the cars stick to the track is incredible, and you have to see it live to actually believe it. And the speeds they reach these days is incredible again. It's just, I'd love to be an F1 driver. It would be a dream.
Okay, we better stay back. Good to see you. Thanks for talking. Whoops.
Okay, bad news for both Toyota drivers earlier this week. Both will not be part of the team as of next week, and one of them, Mika Salo, has announced his retirement from the sport. Mika joins us live now. Mika, that's sad news. Is that how you view it?
Well, I was basically forced to announce it. There's nothing else around anymore, so I had one more year left, and it's all the teams are basically full, so I decided to stop now.
Hi Mika, Jeremy Hart here. We spent quite a lot of time last year when you were doing the Toyota test program for the team. Were you ever led to believe that this would be longer than just a one-year deal with them? And does the fact that you've announced your retirement mean that maybe your heart really wasn't in it all year?
Well, it was absolutely fully, but there's a lot of things happened during this year, and I'm racing like probably everybody here just for results, and they just don't seem to come, and I'm losing my mind for it because I've been home 12 days this year. It's non-stop work and no reward at all, so it's time to go and do something else.
It's Damon here. I mean, I've been in a similar situation. If someone was to turn around, if some sort of miraculous situation arose and someone offered you a competitive car, would that change your mind?
Most definitely, yes. I still love driving, and I still love this thing. It's been my life for a long time, and I would love to continue at least 1 or 2 years, and then I could retire happily. But now I don't retire happily.
David, I know you've got a race to do, but just give us a prediction for what you can do this afternoon.
Well, we've been struggling on the slow circuits past 3 or 4 races, and it's a high-speed circuit here and high-speed corner, so our engine gets the full advantage here, what it deserves, and it looks good. We're quick on a straight line, the car is reasonable. It should be a good race. Starting 9th is, we scored points from here before, and we need to do it now.
Mika, good luck, and I hope that call comes before too long. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Mika Salo, of course, is actually recently become a father. He was talking about things that had happened this year. You know, I'm not sure actually what we got an age for Mika. Is he 31, something like that?
Yeah, he's mid-30s, and he became a father for the first time last year. That's
last year, yeah.
Some drivers it changes their lives completely. That they can't give it the same commitment. I mean, you're the father of numerous children, and did it change you?
Numerous children, as far as I know, 4.
All over the place. That's fairly numerous.
And if any of them are watching right now, I'll just say hi, guys. Well, I mean, it does. The whole mind thing is hugely important in any sport, but particularly in a dangerous sport like Formula One. And there's nowhere like Spa to make you think about your own mortality. We've got a good view there of the white line on the exit of the pit lane. We just had news that drivers will not be allowed to cross that white line, as we see Sato making a practice start on his way to the grid. He's allowed to do that.
It's a shame, just finishing off with Mika. I mean, he's 35. His glory days, I guess, were when he stood in for Michael at Ferrari. It's a shame to lose him.
Well, let's have a chat with Eddie Irvine now. Eddie, you must be well pleased with that grid position.
Yeah, obviously, we normally go a lot better in the race than we do in qualifying, so if we're up here, it looks reasonably good for the race, although the Michelin's had a big tyre advantage yesterday in over 1 lap.
Eddie, it's Damon here. What would you put down the improvement in performance to this race? Is it the driver or is it the car?
Don't think it's either. I think it's tyres. And this circuit, we don't need maximum downforce, so that's our problem. We don't have enough downforce, so we go to places like Monaco, and that we struggle to get the load. In Budapest, we struggle to get the load, but we've come here, we can drop the wing. We're not as efficient as the other people, but we've got a good engine that can let us run more wing. An engine pushes us along so that even though we're less efficient, we don't lose out so much time.
Hi Eddie, Jeremy Hart. Sorry mate, Jeremy Hart here. Just a quick one about the future. I mean, if you do particularly well here and in Monza, do you think that will save your seat? Should it be under threat at Jaguar?
I'm standing here and I'm not very worried at all. Next year's not an issue.
This race is, so good luck with it. Thanks for talking to us, Eddie.
Thanks.
One of the more curious figures on the Formula One grid, Eddie Irvine. I mean, you know, he's a bright guy, and you just don't know which way it's going to go with him. I mean, he said he's not worried about his drive for next year. Niki Lauda's not made any claims that he's signed both drivers or any drivers for next year, so we don't know about that one. It's probably not a sort of topic of conversation he wants to bring up just before he goes into a serious race, which is probably the most serious race for Jaguar this year, bearing in mind all the problems that have been raised about the future of Jaguar.
Yeah, much improved performance by Jaguar, and a good performance too so far by McLaren. Let's have a word with Adrian Newey now. Peter is with him.
Adrian, we just saw you having a look there at the rear suspension of the Ferrari. What do you reckon?
Well, it's obviously a good car. It's the usual thing, half of Ferrari down at us and half of us are up at Ferrari. No, you don't really learn anything, but it keeps everybody amused. It's all part of the game.
Car's going very well here. What's the feeling now just before the race in terms of, for a start, obviously you've got a different tyre choice there, but what is the atmosphere like in the team?
Difficult to know. I mean, in the race it's going to be how our degradation compares to, on the Michelin tyre compares to Ferrari's degradation on the Bridgestone tyre, so until we know that, it's really rather difficult to forecast at the moment.
Very difficult circuit to get all that data together.
Yeah, it's a long lap, big variety of corners, very much a driver's circuit, and I think most of the drivers, certainly both of our drivers, really enjoy coming here.
Thanks very much, Adrian. Good luck.
Thank you. Thanks.
About him, or were you just going to say that if you were just carry on then?
No, we were thinking about him, obviously, because he was on the screen talking. And that stimulated a little thing in my brain, which was that the gearbox was designed, or partly designed, by a chap called John Sutton, who used to be at Williams, who used to work with Adrian Newey, who worked on some of the very first semi-automatic gearboxes. And he's now been recruited over to McLaren. And so Adrian's obviously looking now at the Ferrari and thinking, right, well, pretty soon we're going to have one of those special gearboxes. And the gearbox is one of the areas that Ferrari have worked on to try and improve their car, and McLaren obviously know that is a quantum step forward, and the recruitment of a Ferrari gearbox man, even though he was previously at Williams, will make McLaren a stronger team in the engineering department.
Well, this is a crucial moment because there's only 8 months, dare I say it, before the start of the next season, and this is the time when new cars are at the absolute most critical design period. So to pull in somebody like John is very important.
I don't know what Renault are doing, but they haven't done so badly this weekend. 7th place is a pretty good place for Jarno Trulli, who's talking to us now.
Yeah, no, I know we shouldn't really be talking about tyres. The information I had this morning was incorrect. It was that the two Renaults were on the soft tyre, but in fact you're both running the harder Michelin.
Probably, yes.
Well, we just had Pat Simmons say that he'd like it to be a little bit warmer.
Yeah, we would like to have a bit more temperatures, yes. Will be nicer for all Bridgestone runners. But anyway, tyres are running very well on this circuit.
All the Michelin runners, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, we can see from the grid, it's very clear that the Michelin has got an advantage here on Bridgestone tyres.
Why did you choose this tyre? At what point of the weekend prior to 12 o'clock Saturday did you choose to go in this direction with the compound?
Well, basically you do test the two compounds. You try to figure out which is the best in which condition and what's the best handling on your car.
Whilst anticipating what the weather's going to be on Sunday?
Well, you try, but you never get it right, so you just manage to do the best on that stage.
How's the car feel onto the grid here?
Well, at the moment, very good, so I'm confident for the race.
Okay, thank you very much, Arno.
There aren't many famous Belgians, but I don't know, I know at least one famous former Belgian Grand Prix star. His name is Thierry Boutsen, and he's standing by to have a chat with Bruce now.
Thierry Boutsen, good to see you. I take it you come every year to the Belgian Grand Prix. Did you get to other ones as well?
It's the very first time since I retired that I come to the Belgian Grand Prix, believe it or not. I've always been busy with other things, other races when I retired from Formula 1, and then I had the accident in 1999 where I was very badly hurt, and it took me some time to recover from that. I've been to Monaco Grand Prix a couple of times because it was that's the place where I live, but this is the first time I come to a proper race on a proper circuit in a different area than where I live. So it's nice to see all these people here, I see them again and meet the people I've been working with in the past, and see Bernie and see all my friends and the friends I've been working with before.
Now, what do you fill your time with now you're not a racing driver anymore?
I've got a couple of business going on. I'm a broker in used aircraft, corporate jets. That's one part of it, and the other one is in financing. I'm working in collaboration with other people to a hedge fund. So we are making money work and trying to make people make money. So
unlike Mika Häkkinen, you're not spending the rest of your life by the swimming pool or the lake.
Well, that's probably something I could have done 1 or 2 days, getting bored afterwards. So, no, I have always had different hobbies. When I was doing Formula 1, I was very much involved myself in aviation, flying myself, having my own aircraft. And automatically, when I retired from racing, I turned myself into the aviation business and finance as well at the same time. So I'm pretty happy with what's happening now.
Well, it's good to hear you're busy. Great to see you. Thanks, Thierry.
He always has been a tall bloke, and he's reasonably much the same size as what he was when he was driving. So if there was no problem for him, what's the problem with Justin Wilson?
I think Justin Wilson is even taller than Thierry Boutsen. I don't think Thierry Boutsen's 6'3". He's. I was once told that I made Thierry Boutsen look professional, which was like one of the worst insults I've ever had. But he's a jolly nice chap, and it's interesting when drivers come back to the grid. They get the same kick. They come and meet all their old friends and stuff. But the business goes on in Formula One, and it doesn't stop for anyone. People come and go, and he said he'd been away for such a long time, and now he's sort of back in the grid and feeling all those feelings again.
Feelings. I've caught the music thing from Jeremy. It's not my fault, it's his. Now then, Ross Brawn. He's a main man at Ferrari, and he's waiting to talk to us now.
Ross Brawn, you always seem to know everything. Is it going to rain this afternoon?
We think not. Obviously it's very cloudy, but our forecasts say no. But it is the same forecast we're shedding out at Silverstone, so we're going to be ready for everything.
Now, former Ferrari driver Nigel Mansell, we just interviewed him, and he assured us that your drivers are on very different strategies. What's your comment to that?
Well, he ought to know.
Why did he choose them?
No comment.
Thanks, Ross.
We've spoken to one Toyota driver. Let's have a word with the other. Peter Windsor is with Alan McNish.
Hi, Alan. I think we can just about see the first corner from here, can't we?
Yeah, I've got to get all these mechanics and probably the 12 other cars out of the way, and it would be a lot easier.
It is kind of a weird start here. It's quite uphill, and of course the guys behind you are actually on a corner.
Yeah, well, there's a few things that are quite weird about it. It is uphill, as you say, but also where we do our practice starts, the only place we can legally do them is on a downhill section. And so therefore all the information you gain I would say has got pretty minimal effect when it actually comes to the real thing.
So we might see a lot of different speeds coming off the grid from different cars.
Hopefully ours will be fast and the rest will be slow, but I would presume that there's going to be a few bad starts.
Do you think about this first corner at this point, or do you just sort of let it happen?
I think you've got to have a bit of an idea what you're going to do, but I would say invariably there'll be an incident where someone's nose will get taken off or something like that. But it's a long lap to come back to the pit if you do have something go wrong there. That's the one thing about here. It's 6-7 kilometres and it's such fast speed as well that you'll be a lap down before you really get back here.
Briefly run us through your qualifying. You were looking very, very good at various stages. How did it actually go on the qualifying run?
Yeah, overall it went reasonably well. We made some small adjustments to the car. Had a slight problem with the tyre pressures in the last run, which affected our position a little bit. I think we probably should have been a couple of places higher. However, saying that, overall it was a pretty good qualifying session, especially considering how the last few races have generally gone for Toyota, and so we're pretty optimistic this afternoon.
Well, very good luck to you, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's chipper in the face of adversity. Now, while he was talking, just before he started talking, they flashed up previous winners of this event. You're a bit of a Spa Meister, aren't you?
I only just realised I've won it 3 times.
Don't tell me you just realised.
Well, I mean, don't forget, one of them I didn't actually lead. I actually won it at the airport. So, yeah, you know, you tend to remember the ones we were on the track at the time leading and won.
Did the last one mean more than the others because it was in adversity?
The last one was a classic race. It was a race that we actually, it was an hour after the restart. There was a big shunt at the start, and it was the first win for Jordan, and it was wet, and there was a safety car. It was a real big event. And that was my last Grand Prix victory, so that was quite a memorable one.
And you're telling me that when you first saw this graphic, you realised that you'd won it 3 times?
It looks nice, doesn't it, actually? Michael there in the middle.
Should 94 not have higher car written against it rather than Williams, if you won it at the airport rather than on the track?
Maybe. Well, if you take it from 93 to 98, I'd won it the same amount of times as Michael Schumacher.
Marvellous. Amazing what you can do with stats, isn't it? Now then, we've already heard from Alan McNish. Let's hear from the man who's going to replace him, or either him or Salo, at Toyota, Olivier Panis.
Olivier, 3 massive Honda engine failures in 2 days. How's that affected the way Honda are now facing the race in terms of revs?
Well, you know, we never know. I think so. We have some problem this week, but we need to respect what Honda doing until now because he improved the engine a lot. It's true we have some problem with but I really want to hope, and I hope so, it's quite good for the race because the car is quite competitive here.
Well, the good news is you've got all your unreliability out of the way and you're going to have a trouble-free race.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I hope so. Thank you.
Good luck.
And here's the main man being squeezed a bit there on the pits meeting. Mr. Eccleston meeting, I presume he's King of Belgium. I mean, who else would it be?
There is a king, King Leopold.
Yeah.
Of the Belgians.
It could be King Leopold. Unlike most of the heads of state of Europe, I haven't had breakfast with him, so I can't confirm it.
Yes, Olivier Panis sort of being moved around from team to team, sort of middling team to middling team. He's sort of, I don't know, he's one of these drivers who seems to get a drive. Why Olivier Panis and not Mika Salo? I kind of can't work that out, actually. I mean,
I'm surprised that Olivier's got the drive at Toyota as well. I mean, nice bloke, a few flashes of great inspiration, but not what you'd necessarily call a great fighter either. Maybe I'm being particularly harsh on him, but I'm surprised that Toyota, when they're at the position they are at, where they've got a big fight now, they've got a good car, lots of money and everything else, but you want the best possible driver in the car.
Well, we're not sure who the King of Belgium is or what he looks like, but a potential King of Italy, of course, is Flavio Briatore, who's rumoured to be looking for a career in politics when he gives up Formula One. Here he is now with Bruce.
Flavio Briatore, it's grey, it's not raining, your driver's 7th in the grid. Jarno Trulli, what are your thoughts for the race ahead?
No, you know, position is quite good, but people in front of us is good as well, you know. If Jan had a good start, maybe we have a possibility to be in the point. This, I believe, is the maximum for today.
Now, moving away from racing, there's talk circulating that you're thinking of moving into politics in the future. Have you developed those thoughts?
No, really, you know, there's already a lot of politics in Formula One. It's plenty already.
A good place to practice. Thanks, Flavio.
Of course, the difference between politics and Formula One is you have to get people to vote for you. And I think Flavio seems to be backpedaling from the idea of getting involved in...
Even in Italy?
Yeah.
And I think I go straight for King.
Maybe that is the difference, yeah.
It'd be perfect, but although he's, you know, Italy has more governments than Flavio has drivers, I think, under his wing, either as team owner or team manager.
We had another personality in Formula One claiming that he was about to throw in the towel recently, which was Gerhard Berger. You have to wonder sometimes whether this is all part of a negotiating tactic for a bit more incentive to stay.
They're about to clear the grid, so let's quickly have a word with Patrick Head, who's with Bruce.
Patrick, your cars are starting 4th and 5th on the grid this afternoon. What are your thoughts about the action ahead?
Well, it's a very interesting track and quite high speed, so the fine balance of the car is very important, and I'm looking forward to the race, but obviously we'd like to be starting higher up on the grid.
We've got to get off the grid now. Thanks for talking to us, Patrick.
Touring car racer, always at the wheel of that SL55 Mercedes, and let's just hope that the safety car isn't called into action in the race itself. We've seen the race started behind a safety car here in the past when the weather conditions have been poor. I'm glad to say, looking over the Ardennes forests, that the track is dry. There might be some cloud, but there's no rain falling, and we've got some pretty ideal conditions for the start of today's Grand Prix.
Yes, temperature not particularly high, but the cloud does appear to be high, and that is obviously a very good sign. We've had that 20% forecast of rain at some point during the Grand Prix, but right now this race is going to start in dry conditions. Track conditions pretty good as well, although the track temperature is only 18 degrees. Nevertheless, with a fairly, well, a moderately high load of fuel on board, the energy that will generate will get tyre temperature fairly quickly. It'll be more a case, I think, of tyre degradation, and I think we're going to see that will be a greater factor for the Michelin runners, maybe more so of the softer Michelin than the more durable one that will be with Ralf Schumacher, Montoya and David Coulthard in particular.
So as the clock continues to count down at the top of your screen, Raikkonen now just a few moments away from this run down to La Source. We saw in the Formula 3000 race yesterday a little bit of contact between some of the cars. Let's just check the grid once again as we prepare for the start of the Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen sharing the front row of the grid today. The two of them battled for the French Grand Prix, and it was Michael Schumacher who came out on top on that occasion. Barrichello next up, starts 3rd on the grid. Ralf Schumacher 4th, the first of the two Williams. Then it's Juan Pablo Montoya and David Coulthard starting in 6th position, but working on race setup and looking for a decent result at the end of the 44 laps. On through the list, Trulli, Irvine, Sarlo and Button in the top 10, and then Jacques Villeneuve. Alan McNish starting 13th ahead of Fisichella. Then it's Panis and Sato, Massa and Heidfeld, and at the back the two Minardis, Mark Webber and Anthony Davidson.
And just one last minute bit of news from the pit lane, and that's Rubens Barrichello will in fact start in the spare car rather than his race car, so rather a late minute change for Ferrari, and maybe because Rubens has not been entirely comfortable with the balance of his car throughout the weekend, he may decide that he thinks that the spare car is going to give him a better run here this afternoon.
Well, there is Rubens, so therefore we know he is in the spare car, but he looks relatively relaxed.
Yeah, he looks also, I think he looks more comfortable. I don't know why, maybe just his eyes and the way he just turned around and communicated with somebody to his left. It just seemed to indicate that he was quite comfortable and quite happy.
Best result here in Spa, 5th place, and that was last year. It did hit the tyres at the bus stop chicane last year. Now we don't seem to have tyres on the bus stop chicane this year. We have a few plastic poles. We had tyres out for the Porsche Super Cup race, but they will not be there in the Grand Prix.
No, and as the minute ticks away, then these cars will make their way around for the final time before they'll come onto the grid for the start of this year's Belgian Grand Prix. 44 laps of the 4.3-mile circuit. And there, the front of the Ferrari there, and looked like they're scrubbed front, certainly in the front of Kimi Raikkonen's McLaren. As we just say, yes, you can see those tyres have been run. They're still pretty fresh, But nonetheless, they've just done the initial run, 2 laps running. As for Michael Schumacher, we did see him go out of the pit on what I thought was a brand new set of sticker tyres. Those tyres now, obviously the skin has been taken off, and watch for the rubber being laid as they just ensure that they get the best opportunity, even with launch control, to make a good start.
So, the formation lap, yes, let's see how many people use the launch control and how many people switch it off and lay some rubber down here as they get ready to start the formation lap. Well, several people you can see laying a bit of rubber down, Raikkonen in particular there. This is on board with Raikkonen. Now, start of the race, Raikkonen has impressed me a number of times this year. He's very aggressive on cold tyres and usually keeps it all together. Been seen some good first corners from Kimi Raikkonen. Today, his main problem may not be actually challenging Michael Schumacher. It may be getting over in front of Barrichello in time to stay in second place.
Yes, I think that's the big problem for everybody on the left-hand side of track, that those on the right-hand side could just have to stay there and maintain position and just back up one after the other, and you'll preclude the entire left-hand side of the grid from being able to blend in. There will be contact, I'm certain, from 1 or 2 people. Usually it'll happen in the middle towards the back of the grid. Nevertheless, with Raikkonen, Ralf Schumacher and Coulthard, the principal front or left-hand side of the grid starters, all trying to squeeze in on top of Barrichello, Montoya, and truly, well, it could be a bit of a squeeze into turn 1. Let's hope they all do get round. Let's hope there are no bits of carbon fibre flying off. Let's hope we don't have a start like we saw in the Formula 3000 race, where there was a bit of a shunting match in La Source in the exit of the corner, and everybody can file down cleanly and clearly into Eau Rouge and get this race underway.
20 of the world's best racing drivers about to do battle on one of the best racetracks in the world, the 4.3 mile Spa circuit. And they are now just coming around, still a little way to go, of course, on this longest track currently used in Grand Prix racing before they make their way back onto the grid. There's a little sign of tension from inside the McLaren Mercedes pit.
I tell you, a lot of tension on the face of Norbert Haug, who's Daimler Van's motorsport director, and he's sitting there quite tense indeed. Martin Whitmarsh behind him, much more relaxed.
Yeah, even Ron Dennis is looking a little anxious, a little wound up before the start of this one. Perhaps seeing just what Kimi can achieve and watching for Coulthard's progress in the early laps, and Coulthard watching throughout the race. He knows it's a long race, this one, 2 stops. He'll be making the most of the strategy here today.
Looking at Jean Todt, totally relaxed and knows that he's in a very, very strong, very comfortable position.
Adrian Newey for McLaren doesn't look too wound up, but everybody at this stage. Unpredictable opening lap. It's always unpredictable at this point. And there we are on board with David Coulthard, heading down towards the bus stop as his teammate makes his way through there. Ralph just squirting the car a little bit. Coulthard makes his way through the bus stop, followed by Jarno Trulli and Eddie Irvine. Great to see the Jaguar that far up the grid this time. His best qualifying performance of the season. Can Eddie now convert that into a point-scoring finish in the Belgian Grand Prix? Michael Schumacher moves on to pole position, his first ever pole position in Spa, but can he now convert that into a 6th Belgian Grand Prix victory and his 10th win of the season, and shatter yet more records in this astonishing year of 2002 for Ferrari and for Schumacher? Anthony Davidson, the last man to move up into position, of course, starting his 2nd Grand Prix for Minardi. Let's wish him well. Let's hope he makes it all the way to the finish of this 44-lap encounter. And we're all set, we're all ready for the lights to come on, and when they go out, we'll be racing in Belgium. Away we go. Michael Schumacher tries to get away, and Raikkonen shuts the door immediately on Barrichello. Barrichello comes down the inside, so Raikkonen is forced to go out wide. Montoya's on the inside. Ralf Schumacher's in there. Raikkonen gets into 3rd, Montoya into 4th, and Coulthard is working, trying to get past Ralf Schumacher.
Well, that was a tight stunt, but Ralf Schumacher just outdrags Coulthard down into Eau Rouge. Kimi Raikkonen lost 1 place to Barrichello, but I think he did still a pretty reasonable job. He was on the wrong side of the track. Barrichello had a great start. Now watch Coulthard comes up and gets alongside Ralf Schumacher up to Les Combes. Look at Raikkonen trying to find a way past Barrichello.
Look at Coulthard. He made it look so easy getting past Ralf Schumacher, the McLaren. Very, very fast up the hill there to Lecombe. I wonder if that means they're running a little lighter or whether simply sheer engine power. He got a great toe there.
Great toe, 326 Ks against Ralf Schumacher's 319. He got a good run up and out of Eau Rouge over the radio and a fantastic toe down the straight.
Ralf seems to be struggling a bit here because Jarno Trulli in the Renault is right behind him. Then it's Irvine and then it's Jenson Button running in 9th place. Mika Salo is in 10th in the Toyota. Look at Michael Schumacher getting away from Rubens Barrichello. Barrichello chased by Raikkonen and Montoya.
Now Raikkonen's got through the start. He's got over that moment when he thought, do I want to be in the front row of the grid? Yes, I do. But he did the right thing. He came across, but he just didn't have enough bite on the initial start to put himself ahead of Barrichello. Now running in 3rd place, slides wide as he comes out of the first part of Stavlo. Everybody using more curb than we've seen pretty much all over the 2 days. But Michael Schumacher up and gone. Barrichello trying to follow in a slipstream, and Raikkonen trying to keep in contact as we come up to the bus stop for the first time.
McNish made a good start. He's 12th, so he gained 1 on his start position. Fisichella is 13th, and it's Villeneuve who lost out. Villeneuve, the main loser. Look, a little bit of a battle there.
Yeah, but the main loser of all is Olivier Panis. He's 18th. Panis dropped all the way down, and he started 15th, 18th. But the 2 Sabres making up a little bit of the ground.
Raikkonen comes through then, chased by Montoya and Coulthard. Bit of a queue developing here. Salo through the shot. There is Villeneuve, who lost out, as you say, Panis as well. So both BAR Hondas not getting a good getaway. Whether that's something to do with their launch control, I've no idea. Didn't really see them off the grid, but neither of them have gone well. Look at that picture as they head down through Eau Rouge. Almost 200 miles an hour.
And Villeneuve is giving Giancarlo Fisichella a real workout as they came into Eau Rouge. As they come out, well, we have to look all the way back to the straight. Toyota's pulling out, can't get the job done. Irvine's still running in that 8th place.
Yes, so a solid 8th place. The Saubers there.
Lock up coming into Lecombe. Somebody may have gone off track. We wait to see.
2 Minardi's running close together. Let's take another look at the start here and watch at the front, but also watch further back. We can see with the BAR's lost out.
But watch the Renault. That's the Renault launch control. Truly moves from right to left. He gets position. That's why he's up to 7th. But Kimi Raikkonen really couldn't do much about Barrichello. He's got to watch Montoya up the inside. Montoya trying to find a way to squeeze into 3rd place, but it was David Coulthard there on the right of Ralf Schumacher. Schumacher dragged him into Eau Rouge, but the situations were switched when they came to Lecombe.
And Montoya's got past Raikkonen. Montoya has moved up into 3rd position. It did look as though Raikkonen was beginning to hold up this queue, and Montoya has found a way past. He's up into 3rd.
And David Coulthard now also coming close to the back of Kimi Raikkonen. Coulthard on the harder of the Michelin tyres, and maybe that's the factor. Maybe Kimi Raikkonen's tyres are not working in these conditions quite as well as the harder of the 2 Michelin.
So Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello, they have quite an advantage already, but let's try now and watch the lap times as they come through. Montoya got past Raikkonen, so we won't expect a particularly quick lap from Montoya on this particular one, but let's watch him as he goes on to the next lap. See whether he can close the gap. 2.4 seconds between 2.7 between Montoya and Barrichello at the end of the lap, and that's the gap to concentrate over the next few laps. So down the hill into Eau Rouge, and now we've got to see whether Raikkonen's going to come under increasing pressure.
Yes, the difference between the 2 tyre choices is that softer tyre does sometimes take 3 or 4 laps to come in to get stabilised, whereas the slightly harder tyre is there with you. Again, just a confidence factor, but Coulthard very keen to put pressure on Kimi Raikkonen. Kimi Raikkonen realising that starting at the front is a lot more difficult than starting in row 3 or row late. There it is. Now, I don't know why he seemed, that was the corner on the circuit where he was outstanding all weekend, particularly on the exit, easy on the exit, but somehow he lost speed. Whether he backed out, but Montoya was able to take position, got him into Fagna, and that was it. New lap record, Michael Schumacher, 1:49.446, not surprisingly on this slightly revised, but more likely repaved Grand Prix circuit.
Yes, and Montoya chases after Barrichello effectively now. We'll monitor that gap as they come round. Doesn't seem to be closing at this stage, I have to say. Impressed by the performance of Jarno Trulli, who's staying so far with the McLarens and Williams. This is a replay of the start from the perspective of David Coulthard.
Well, there's that launch control from Renault, but Coulthard gets up. Trulli puts himself to go around the outside, but he loses out. He gets squeezed out against the barrier. Coulthard now has a race, horsepower race, Mercedes-Benz versus BMW. Coulthard's got the initial run, but there's the difference in ultimate horsepower, and of course he has to concede. But watch as he comes out of this corner, because he gets a mighty 2 from the back of Ralf Schumacher, gets in the slipstream and pulls up alongside, a real good illustration of how a driver can use the toe of another car to his advantage.
So that was Coulthard's move, and that puts him past Ralf Schumacher. Now they've come round to complete 3 laps. Michael Schumacher, a 49.066, 4/10 faster than Barrichello, and I have to say there's a second between the pace that Barrichello's doing and the pace that Montoya achieved on that last lap. So rather than catching Barrichello, Montoya is dropping further away. He's now 3.6 seconds behind the number 2 Ferrari. On board with Kimi Raikkonen here, looking back at David Coulthard.
Yes, but the gap between Coulthard and the gap between Montoya, Coulthard slightly closer than Raikkonen is to Montoya. Ralf Schumacher just hanging in there, got out dragged up the hill by David Coulthard. Coulthard very, very feisty today indeed. Not happy that his teammate blew him away in qualifying. Tyre difference, now there's what happened to Kimi Raikkonen. No wonder how he kept that thing in control. He's virtually on the lock stops. That was on the second lap down the hill. Well, Kimi Raikkonen, that's got to be the save of the day, if not, for me, the save of the season.
That was astonishing. That's one of the fastest corners here at Spa. It's taken in 5th gear. It's well over 120 miles an hour, and he had it completely crossed up through there. Fantastic reactions from Raikkonen. A little mistake, though, and it did allow Montoya to move into 3rd. So, heading around, Michael Schumacher has opened up a very healthy advantage. 2.8 seconds the gap between himself and Barrichello, and the 2 Ferraris gradually pulling away from the rest of the field. But I have to say we're in for a real treat in the battle as to best of the rest, because for the moment it's Montoya, as you see, but Raikkonen's still there, Coulthard's not far behind, and then Ralf Schumacher's a part of the equation, as is Jarno Trulli. So what a battle we'll have behind.
Well, the gap now 2.7, so Rubens took 1/10 of a second out of Michael's lead. Barrichello had the fastest lap between the 2 Ferraris, but here's a battle going on the Saubers, and we've got Heidfeld, Massa running behind Villeneuve, and behind Massa you got Takuma Sato, and that rebuilt Jordan.
So let's just see what these guys can do. The 2 Saubers who didn't qualify so well, running 15th and 16th. Massa chasing his teammate. Massa knows he's out of Sauber as a race driver next year. Maybe he will still be a test driver for the team, but he wants to earn a race seat somewhere. And I'm not sure that team orders will be respected to quite the same extent as they were in Germany.
A bit messy through. Nick Heidfeld's about to be caught and passed. Heidfeld goes to the right to block, now tries to sort of squeeze, and trouble down at Eau Rouge. Is that David Davidson or Webber? It's one of the 2 Minardis. Massa can't get it done.
I think, yeah, well, I just looking, I think Massa...
Maybe he did get through,
Maybe he did get through there. I think he did get past Heidfeld, actually. And Peter Sauber, yes, he did. He's got a little smile on his face.
He had it all teed up. He had to go the long way around. Heidfeld wasn't keen. Here we see it again in replay. So Heidfeld in the middle of the road, then he blocks to the right. Massa comes up alongside. This is eyeball to eyeball stuff up to the braking zone, but Massa's just got the advantage. He gets a car length ahead, and nothing that Nick Heidfeld can do about it.
That was pretty impressive stuff. It is Mark Webber who has pulled off at the side of the road, and it looks like it's a mechanical issue once again. Just about every session so far this weekend he's had some sort of mechanical reliability problem. It's a shame because their reliability record had been quite good.
Well, huge. This Mark's had a really rotten weekend. Interestingly, David Coulthard currently in 5th place, now the fastest man through that first sector, chasing down his own teammate. But Michael Schumacher, yet again a new lap record, 1:48.995. Here's the battle with Villeneuve and Fisichella, the 2 Honda-powered teams. They come up into the bus stop. Jack, there's no way to go down the inside of Fisichella there. The braking zone is just too short. You've got to try and get it done, maybe up, as we saw Massa do with his teammate, into Lecum.
So up towards La Source, and this, of course, a tight corner, but it's very difficult to actually get alongside somebody here. But watch out for Massa.
Exactly, it's Felipe Massa's the one that's on the charge. He got past his teammate. He's pulled out, well, the best part of 1.4 seconds since he got past him. Nick Heidfeld being demoted now to 16th. Villeneuve chasing Fisichella. Massa zoning and lasering in on the back of Villeneuve.
Yeah, and behind that was Sato, who got so out of shape at the top of Radillon. Pretty impressive save from Sato. The car moving around a great deal, and of course in race conditions it's not so easy flat through Eau Rouge, and they're having to work a little bit harder at it. On board again with Jacques Villeneuve as he chases Giancarlo Fisichella, and he's got Felipe Massa right behind him, remember.
So watch for this move. Villeneuve again looking very aggressive. We saw in Austria the most aggressive I've seen Villeneuve for a long time. In certain events, certain circuits, he seems to sort of come out of the spell that he cast on himself and looks like a racing driver today. He is a racing driver.
Well, he always goes well here at Spa. The last few years he's not finished in the points, but he's had some good top 10 finishes. We're looking back though at Felipe Massa, determined to prove something in the remaining 4 Grand Prix of this year. Uses a bit of curb there. Now he's into the slipstream of Villeneuve. You can see the car sliding around more.
Yeah, and look at Felipe Massa. You can see he turns in, has to turn away from the corner, then bites again for the second time. As we watched Takuma Sato come out of the corner that trapped him this morning. He's chasing now Nick Heidfeld, and he's got Olivier Panis keeping him honest behind.
New lap record once again for Michael Schumacher at a 1:48.965, and that further extends his lead over Barrichello, although staying fairly consistent at 3.7 seconds. We're riding once again with 14th position man Jacques Villeneuve, and he's attacking Fisichella. No, not quite.
No, Fisichella all aware for that, but look, he runs slightly wide on the exit. Now a chance for Villeneuve on the run down to Eau Rouge. Giancarlo Fisichella slightly wide, missed the apex, was off the throttle, gave an opportunity, responding to the pressure from Jacques Villeneuve. The bottom of the car grinds its way up the rise out of Eau Rouge over the top at Radillon.
Now he's got a decent toe. Can he convert this? He's got to move to the inside. Fisichella may well cover the inside. He does. And Villeneuve tries to
naughty, more than one move. You could say that was certainly 1.5 moves from Fisichella. Villeneuve, you can see the oversteer about to build up. He'll not be happy with that. Fisichella did move clearly to the right. Villeneuve went to the left, and Fisichella came back to the centre of the track.
2 Honda-powered cars, of course, so there's not much to choose between it in terms of ultimate horsepower. And the Jordan and BAR pits are watching this one very closely indeed. Let's take a look from outside.
Here's the first move from Fisichella. He goes to the right. Well, it's very... Yes, there it is. Now he cuts back. Now Fisichella comes back again. That, to me, is 2 moves. That could see Fisichella, let's say, having to come in and answer why he was doing that.
Felipe Massa still looking for any opportunity to nip through himself as Michael Schumacher continues to build up a very comfortable lead here over teammate Barrichello, although the two of them have sort of held station over the last lap or so. They're building their lead over Montoya in third, though. He's now 7.3 seconds behind Barrichello.
Yeah, but what's scary is he's 11 seconds behind the race leader in the space of 7 laps. He's picked up 11 seconds, and that is just, I mean, we didn't expect to see this, we didn't hope to see this. The fact is, it just proves how good. And here's this battle again.
Oh, this is a
Fisichella gets it wrong.
He's gone straight across the grass at the bus stop, and I wonder if he'll get into any trouble for that. Villeneuve not able to take advantage of it yet.
I wonder, has Fisichella got a braking problem? We saw him make a mistake here in the previous lap. He's made another one now. Gone, there it is, all over. He made that mistake. I think he's got a brake problem because this bus stop the last time around Eau Rouge, and now in Eau Rouge gets it wrong. Villeneuve gets through, and that is unfortunate. Giancarlo Fisichella defended, but he could do no more. He's got a problem. Now Felipe Massa, he's going to pick up the slipstream. Watch for the young Brazilian make away past the Italian. This time Fisichella does not battle for that position. He knows he's got a problem. He knows he can't stop what is inevitable.
So Massa moves up one as well. So we now have Villeneuve 13th. Massa comes up to 14th, and Fisichella moves back down to 15th place. Remember, the common denominator between these 3 cars, they're all on the Bridgestone tyre. Well, the Bridgestones are working brilliantly on the Ferrari, but the Premier League Ferrari cars working on the Bridgestone, but after that, these cars fairly evenly matched, but further down, just inside the top 15, but not much better than that. McNish still running in 12th place, remember, on the Toyota with the Michelin tyres.
There's a big battle going on for 8th place. Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar. He's 2.8 seconds behind Jarno Trulli. Can't do much about that, but he's got his mirrors full of Trulli's teammate Jenson Button. 0.7 of a second behind. Button's all over him. Button hasn't got the squirt in the straight line to get past the Jaguar. Remember, Eddie Irvine, he knows that car works well in a straight line here. It's not a totally downforce circuit, so they can use what they've got pretty effectively. He's got the Michelin tyre, and Eddie, very difficult to pass when he's got the scent of maybe getting 1, possibly 2 points in an afternoon.
Another brilliant lap from Michael Schumacher, and this time Barrichello did not stay with him on that last lap, so the gap has gone out to 5.3 seconds. I don't know whether Barrichello made a little mistake there somewhere, because he definitely dropped away a touch from his team leader, but the 2 Ferraris still dominating the early stages of this Belgian Grand Prix. That is the gap back to Juan Pablo Montoya. He has Kimi Raikkonen 1.4 seconds behind, and Raikkonen has David Coulthard right behind him, just 0.8 of a second between them.
And I just wonder if David Coulthard could get free of Kimi Raikkonen. Could he actually run faster than he's doing? Because he's got to a certain point, where the performance of the cars is equal, but I believe Coulthard's got a little bit more potential at this point than Kimi has, but he hasn't got enough to get past. He's going to need some assistance, or maybe something from the pits, a call from the pits to Kimi, let him go.
So watching him as he heads down the hill, he glances in his mirrors, but he doesn't have to worry too much, because Ralf Schumacher is some 2.3 seconds behind in the second Williams. And there we can look at the other battle you talked about, John. It's Eddie Irvine versus Jenson Button.
I tell you what, it looked a lot closer on the timing screens than it does, in fact, on the road. But in fact, it is about, well, we're looking at 7/10 of a second, and that's roughly what 7/10 of a second looks like at this sort of speed. So horsepower, Renault probably getting close to what Jaguar have, but certainly no advantage to Renault. Where their advantage lies is they've got probably a more efficient aerodynamic package, but nevertheless Jenson not quick enough to be able to do anything with Irvine, who running and consolidating his 8th place on the grid, 8th place on the road.
So let's just keep an eye on these two British drivers at the moment, at slightly different points in their careers, of course. Eddie Irvine, team leader for Jaguar, has had a disappointing time ever since he joined the Jaguar team, really. Was, of course, Michael Schumacher's teammate at Ferrari for several years. Had his great shot at the title back in 1999. Has never won the Belgian Grand Prix. His main objective today is to score some points. He's still running in 8th. We only have one car out of this race so far after 9 laps have been completed, and that is Australian Mark Webber. The Minardi pulling off to the side of the road down at Rouge. All the rest of the 19 cars are still in, and that includes his teammate, of course, Anthony Davidson.
Well, Michael Schumacher by the lap, almost setting new lap records. 6.3 seconds advantage over teammate Barrichello. Now 17.4 seconds ahead of Montoya in 3rd place.
So Coulthard not able, as you say, to really do much at the moment. They seem to be holding station at this point. Down inside the Williams pit, there's very little activity so far. 9 laps have been completed out of this 44-lap Grand Prix. Now, last year stops were made around this point, but last year the race was a different length because it was a restarted race. We won't expect to see the first pit stops in for another 6 or 7 laps yet, I would imagine, before we see the first pit stops being made. And so there's a little while here for Raikkonen and Coulthard to settle into their rhythm.
Just to give you an illustration of the pace of this race, fastest lap last year was a 49.2, 49.7, I beg your pardon. This year already on lap 10 it's a 48.1, so over 1.5 seconds quicker on lap 10 compared to what we saw last year over the 44 laps.
It's a very impressive pace that's being set up front at the moment by Michael Schumacher, no doubt about that. And 48.1, in fact, ironically, that's exactly the same speed that Anthony Davidson did in qualifying yesterday in the Minardi. So it just gives you some idea of how quickly Schumacher's going in the race, with lots of fuel on board, tyres that are now having done several laps.
And Felipe Massa now quickest man down the straight, doing 334 kilometers per hour in the Sauber. Massa still behind Villeneuve, 1.3 seconds, but Villeneuve right on the gearbox of Alan McNish for 12th place, 0.4 of a second.
Yes, he's gradually caught McNish over the last couple of laps. So we'll get another view of that, I'm sure, fairly soon. McLaren will keep an eye on the progress of their 2 cars. Another lap record from Michael there at 48.146. It's just lap after lap he's improving the mark, and it makes it look so easy. Every time we look at the leader, just driving smoothly, all under control. This is his teammate. Let's just watch with Rubens for a moment. Doesn't look too troubled, doesn't look frantic.
Yeah, but I don't think he's even happy with the spare car. He said he prepared this to his race car, but nonetheless, just is still not as committed as Michael Schumacher is in the Ferrari. Rubens, coming through Stablo, coming out of the exit of Fagnes, still looks slightly apprehensive on getting the throttle open fully.
No problems with taking Blanchimont left-hander, flat out, and Michael's about to set... Oh, we've got problems for Jenson Button. Jenson Button pulling off to the side of the track. He was involved in the battle with Eddie Irvine. He was running in 9th position, and he has pulled off.
Yes, that's on the exit of the Pujo corner coming into Fagnes, and he gets out of the way as quickly as possible.
TV. Sorry about that. Can you put the car in P0, please?
Well, I don't know if he's even still connected on the radio,
it's a bit steamy from the left-hand side of the engine. It may be an engine problem, maybe some hydraulic, electrical. We'll maybe hear a little bit later if there's more radio traffic. But disappointment for Jenson, having a massive battle with Eddie Irvine 4th place. He'll have an early bath and make his way back to the airport.
Brings Salo up into 9th position now, and the top 10 then is completed by Pedro de la Rosa. McNish still running one behind, as we see Jenson Button running across the road, has to sign the odd autograph or two, and then I'm sure he'll get a lift back to the pits.
Yes, on that last lap, Michael Schumacher, another new lap record, 1:47.877. If you ever wanted to see a Michael Schumacher masterclass of a Grand Prix, well, that's what we're watching right now. Some 8.8 seconds ahead of teammate Barrichello. Now, they may be on differing fuel loads. It's conceivable Barrichello could be on a one-stop. The gap, 8.8 seconds, difficult to judge.
Just noticing that Raikkonen's fuel flap has done what it did in the practice sessions earlier, John, this weekend. It's flapped open again. As Ron Dennis said to us, it's not a major issue, but if you look at the McLaren, you will see that fuel flap bouncing around.
Yes, and he explained that for practice and qualifying, they have a magnet system that keeps it closed, or in this case, half closed, half open. But come the race, then it's a different mechanism they use, and that's it's activated when you engage first gear when you come into the pit lane.
Now, this is the battle we talked about, because Villeneuve has gradually caught up to Alan McNish, and now just 0.3 of a second between them. And you can see that Villeneuve really trying to size Alan McNish up now for a potential overtaking manoeuvre. He worked hard at getting past Fisichella. Oh, Villeneuve gets into a bit of a slide there, and Massa is still right with him. These two working not quite together, but certainly in tandem as they come and try and move past Alan McNish next.
And confirmation from Renault that that was actually an engine failure that saw Jenson Button retire just one lap ago. That'll be disappointing for the Enstone-based Renault team. Is that rain on the... Is that spots of rain falling on the camera lens? Or is it just it's been pulled through? Those lenses have been pulled through fairly rapidly.
Well, McNish's car looks as though it's sliding around a little bit. His teammate Salo, as said, running in 9th place. But this is the major battle to keep an eye on for the moment. And Villeneuve trying to size up to see where the Toyota is quick and where it's not so fast.
Position 4, position 4.
Yes, we've got quite an interesting battle going on here between Toyota and Honda, of course.
I don't know whether that's maybe liquids coming from the back of McNish's car that we're seeing on the camera lenses. There's a film across that lens to protect it, and if anything gets on it, then it goes through its loop. So I think that may well in fact be liquids from the rear of the Toyota rather than actual rain falling.
Over the curb, McNish trying to capitalise on where he's got a little bit more pace, and in fact the fact that he's got clean air over his car. Good downforce through this section of track particularly, whereas Villeneuve running in the dirty air behind McNish's car, making the car slide around considerably, and that makes it difficult to try and draw alongside. But still Felipe Massa is right with them. There's then a bit of a gap back to Fisichella. Fisichella's still going as Button's car is now moved out of the way.
Yes, and those yellow lights down at Fagnes, they've been there ever since Button stopped. And they're there for one very good reason, because that's a dangerous moment as that truck picks up the car to take it to safety. And Michael Schumacher on lap 13, yet another fastest lap there, 1:47.706, another new lap record.
Well, another stunning performance then from Michael Schumacher. He just making it look very easy at the moment as he accelerates away from the opposition. Even his teammate is a full 11.2 seconds behind, and that's a massive gap between the two Ferrari teammates. Barrichello himself, though, has a massive advantage over Juan Pablo Montoya. That's 15.5 seconds back to 3rd place as we ride once again with Jacques Villeneuve trying to find a way past Scotsman Alan McNish.
And McNish resisting all the pressure from the former world champion, but he's got a horsepower advantage. And Toyota, you can see just coming out of the corner, bits of bodywork being picked up. Now I think that? Hard to tell where that was.
Yes, either La Source or the bus stop. I'm not quite sure quite where they were there. Now, can Villeneuve? Yes, he's got a good run this time. McNish just seemed to lose a little bit of pace through there.
Yes, he did. He wasn't, I don't know whether it was just the tyres giving up, but there you see the two. Comes up alongside, but has he got enough horsepower? He's certainly got the courage to wait until the last moment to put the brakes on, locks up the inside wheel. McNish tries to cut back, but Jacques too experienced, too early. Watch Felipe Massa also. He's about to try and punch when McNish has been caught maybe slightly unawares by the pace of Villeneuve up through the radio and down the straight.
So let's take another look at that. Let me just tell you, Sauber are preparing for a pit stop, but this was Villeneuve making the move on McNish.
And that's how you play a pass. You can move once to block, but you can't do it twice. Alan McNish was totally fair. He tried to make the cut back, but Villeneuve too experienced, too bright to be caught by that one.
So I wonder whether it's going to be Felipe Massa or Nick Heidfeld. Massa runs 13th. Remember, he's right behind now Alan McNish himself, so he's got the task of trying to get past the Toyota. Perhaps the team will bring him in rather than let him waste time behind McNish at this stage.
I suspect that would be my choice. So here's what happened, we think. And Kimi Raikkonen, oh, whoa. That's the slow-mo David Coulthard follows. Again, you see the oscillation of the Michelin front tyre in particular as they ride those sawtooth curves, very aggressive. Let's look and see Jarno Trulli again, even more so on the front of the Renault than on the front of the two McLarens.
Trulli, the remaining Renault in this race, still runs in 7th position. Now, is Massa coming in here?
Well, yes, he is. It's Felipe Massa. So the team have decided to get him out of this battle, get him in, do the service, go back out, hopefully find a bit of clear track where he can run at his own natural pace and let that battle between Villeneuve and looking at De La Rosa, in fact, or the battle it was with McNish and Massa. So Villeneuve got clear air to Pedro De La Rosa, 5 seconds ahead of the Canadian. In 10th place, Pedro De La Rosa.
So into the pits also comes Takuma Sato. And the
fair bit of wear, Ben, on the front of those tyres.
Yeah.
Massa gets out as the work goes on. Sato's Jordan. But that was a fairly high amount of wear, I would have said, on the front of Sato's
right slow here, John. Bit of a
problem
slow
on the
stop.
right rear. And that's disappointing. Looked like the wheel nut isn't seating, the gun couldn't get it to pick up on the threads. Now he's out, but it's a slow stop, 17.2 seconds for Sato, 9.4 for Felipe Massa. Now watch that white line. So,
coming back.
The gap's beginning to open up again. Coulthard maybe just dropping back, either catching his breath. There's that flapping flap. And now Kimi Raikkonen zoning in once again. Juan Pablo Montoya as Toyota are preparing for a stop.
Yes, Raikkonen's timing this carefully to get back on terms with Montoya before the first round of pit stops. It might allow him to get ahead of the Williams, so that battle is still very much on as you watch De La Rosa, who is just a fraction behind Mika Salo. So Toyota versus Jaguar here, and Salo just holding on to 9th place from the Spaniard.
You'd have to think that the advantage is marginally towards the Toyota. It's got an incredible powerful engine, but here, this is what it's all about now, the battle for 3rd place. Raikkonen closing down as close as he's been up until the moment when Montoya got past. So let's watch to see if he can go flat out through Eau Rouge. Montoya may not be able to make it. Can he pick up the slipstream? It's not near enough, but certainly he'll draw close as they climb up the hill, get up towards Les Combes.
Yes, he'll get a little closer, but I'm not sure it'll be close enough to challenge. And these two have had their moments, haven't they, in the last couple of Grand Prix, both at Hockenheim and in Hungary. And it looks as though we might be set for another wheel-to-wheel battle. Irvine in the pits.
Yes, wheels, tires on. What's the problem? What's the problem?
There was
delay.
now the car. I think it was they delayed
Maybe
it because
just
of the Toyota.
Could be, but that's disappointing for Eddie. He lost a couple of seconds of what was a fairly reasonable stop. Ferrari now prepare. And one would assume this is Michael Schumacher, but you could never assume that. Michael once again en route to set another lap record, but will he be able to have a chance to complete the lap, or will he be brought in by Ferrari?
Good discipline from Jaguar and from Irvine there. He must have been realised it was ready to go, but
Michael
he had to
Schumacher
wait.
is in.
Michael Schumacher comes in then from the race lead here in Belgium. 15 laps he has completed. He has opened up a 13.9 second advantage as the massive lead over his own teammate. And now he wants a trouble-free pit stop. He doesn't need to take any risks here. So you see he comes in fairly calmly.
Well, again, fairly high wear in the front of those Bridgestone tyres. It's the Ferrari team, this well-oiled team, go to work, check the air intakes, make sure there's no debris there. Back on 8.6 seconds. So that's about as quick as anybody has been so far. They've had now 7 people into the pits for their services. We look to see what's going to happen at McLaren, what's going to happen at Williams. 73 litres, approximately 14 laps worth of fuel. So that would take him to lap 29 of the 44.
That's right. Well, here's that battle still going on behind as Michael has rejoined, and he's still ahead of this battle that is going on. So Michael back down to 2nd place. It is Rubens Barrichello who now leads this race, and this battle for 3rd continues between Montoya and Raikkonen.
It's a bit scary that Michael can come in, make the pit stop and get back out ahead of this battle for 3rd place. I think that, I mean, where are these guys going to go? Where are they going to find the time? What are they going to do over the winter time to run down? As we see Salo and De La Rosa, this is a battle we saw in Hungary. These two came in together, they've been on the racetrack in Hungary, and Ralf Schumacher has spun, and that is up at Les Combes. Ralf got it wrong in the entry to Les Combes, spun it around, gets back on track. Ralf had been running in 6th place. We want to know where Jarno Trulli was. Well, Trulli should have gone through. He's only 4.3 seconds behind. And so that's a loss of place for Ralf Schumacher.
So disappointment for Ralf Schumacher. We have to wait and see what happened, whether there was anybody else involved. But let me just tell you that Salo did get out ahead of De La Rosa just now.
And there's Trulli going through after that mistake. Now, was that a mistake under pressure? Was it a self-induced mistake? Here we see, now this may be 4. And Ferrari preparing for Barrichello as Williams prepare for one of their 2 cars. After that spin, they may change the strategy. Barrichello comes in. We wait to see whether it'll be Montoya or Ralf Schumacher for Williams.
So Barrichello, who was leading until a moment ago, as he heads into the pits, it will be Michael Schumacher back in front, and a healthy gap between the 2 of them, of course. Barrichello comes in for the stop, and just watch this crew go to work. It is poetry in motion. Great on-board camera, on-helmet camera, I should say. Clean out the side pods, a bit slow there.
Yes, the very slow and getting the dry brake away. And of course he's going to drop back behind this battle for what will now be 2nd place, Montoya, Raikkonen and Coulthard. He's going to rejoin in 5th place. And that, well, a couple of seconds that it took to withdraw the hose wouldn't have ultimately made a terrible amount of difference, but it might have got him out on the gearbox of David Coulthard rather than with clear air between the McLaren and the Ferrari.
Look at Raikkonen.
A little bit closer this time, but it's still not close enough to get past, but he's just, you can see that he's been drawn. Ralf Schumacher in now.
So Ralf Schumacher making his stop. Hopefully that'll be a clean, trouble-free stop. Yes, that works okay. And he rejoins as Raikkonen still hounds Montoya.
Yes, and I just get the feeling that Raikkonen is not satisfied with this 4th place. He started 2nd in the grid, lost out that 2nd place to Barrichello initially. Then Montoya surpassed as they went down the long straight up to Lake Coombe.
The 2 future stars, perhaps, of Formula 1, Colombian Montoya and Finland's Kimi Raikkonen, set to do battle once again. McLaren, now are they playing little tricks here on Williams?
Well,
looking as though they're coming out.
They look like they're coming out, that's for sure. Whether they're actually meaning it or not, we don't know. We'll know when the end of this lap comes. And here we see Williams once again preparing this time for Juan Pablo Montoya. And you got the Williams pit before the McLaren pit, so always a problem. Montoya coming in first to make sure that Kimi Raikkonen can get a clean run in to his pit box. He's going to find it, if it is him, slightly difficult. They may want to bring Coulthard in. He's 3rd on the road right now of these 3 cars.
So this is a very interesting battle coming up in the pit stops here between Williams and McLaren. At the moment, Williams have the slight advantage with Montoya, but will it be this way after the stops? In comes Montoya, in comes Raikkonen, so it's going to be a straightforward battle. How much fuel do you put into the car at this stage? If you short fuel, you might get Raikkonen ahead, but then he'd have to stop longer later.
But Raikkonen's going to be able to stop first, so in theory he'll be moving first. And I suspect if McLaren slightly short-change Raikkonen, they can get him ahead of Montoya. So watch for the length of time that fuel hose is in. The total pit time, of course, is important. Williams are fully aware of what McLaren are capable of doing, but they're putting a lot of fuel into the car. Out the hose, 9.6 is the time. Montoya's gone. McLaren put marginally more fuel in than Williams. That will enable Raikkonen to run maybe 3 laps, 4 laps further than Montoya. So when the final stop comes, somebody's off at Pujo.
It's Davidson. I think it's Anthony Davidson.
Yes, it is. He's not in any trouble. He's just found himself beached. It's almost like Brighton Beach down there. The pebbles are just as big as the gravel is here.
It goes a long way, doesn't it, that gravel trap? We're very, very wide. In comes Olivier Panis, and of course he had that dreadful start initially. Panis now trying to make up some of that lost ground. Let's see the BAR team go to work. Again, a bit of clearing out going on in the side pods where the radiators are. He gets away cleanly.
Yeah, good stop. So here's Anthony Davidson, comes into Pujo. Watch for the oversteer, and it comes. It's going to be massive because the back end's going to swirl. He didn't actually. Well, he's got it all wrong there, Anthony. Well, give you the benefit of the doubt, but nevertheless, both now Minardi's out of this Grand Prix. Anthony, that's down to the driver. Mark Webber clearly had a mechanical problem very early in the race. So huge disappointment for Paul Stoddard and for Anthony Davidson.
That is disappointing. He was looking forward to a race finish today, and that's all over. Both Minardi's out. So here is Coulthard. Now, how quickly can Coulthard lap? This is crucial, because if he can put a couple of quick laps in here, he might end up ahead of Montoya.
Well, he's going to go into the pits this lap, Ben. The team are waiting for him, but he did have a personal best in that second sector, so at least he had the chance to maybe squeeze another 1/10 or 2 of a second. Careful, slow the car down before that line. Now we see Barrichello sweeps through back into second place. Coulthard makes his way down the pit lane, 80 kilometers per hour, 50 miles an hour, and no doubt he's counting every millisecond. Comes into a stop, slides in, car goes up, front wheel's off, front wheel's back on again. Watch for the fuel and the disconnection. There's 9.2 for Raikkonen, and what have we got? 8.7. Coulthard gets a slightly better stop. There's the battle going on behind us. He's not going to get back out ahead of his teammate, but it's going to be close. It is going to be close. Can he accelerate? He's got Montoya, but can he do it before he has? He's got ahead of Raikkonen.
Well, look at that. Raikkonen, the main loser there. Coulthard was about a second quicker stopped at the McLaren pit, and that means that he's now got ahead of Raikkonen, but of course that may change around again later for the final stop.
Yes, because Coulthard may have to put in a fraction more fuel than his teammate. But what's going to be interesting to watch now, that Coulthard is free of Raikkonen, what can he do to challenge Juan Pablo Montoya for third place?
Raikkonen's fuel flap still flapping around, but it doesn't cause a problem to him. There you can see it. It's that little thing on the left-hand side of the cockpit that you can see moving around. That's the fuel cover, just a bit of bodywork, but it doesn't seem to disrupt the airflow over the car too much. Heading down the hill now through Rivage and the left-hander, quick left-hander here, and down towards Pouhon, where we've seen Davidson unfortunately head off into the gravel. This battle between McLaren and Williams very finely balanced at the moment. It's Montoya with the advantage currently. So 19 laps completed. Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello dominating this race for Ferrari, but what a great battle we've got between Williams and McLaren behind them.
Kimi Raikkonen cannot be maybe as happy as he was in his first set of tyres. He lost ground to Montoya. They came in together. Montoya got out. It was a shorter stop for Montoya, but the gap as they came round at the end of the lap and Coulthard filed back in was sufficiently large. So on that out lap, Montoya was able to run at a race pace more quickly than from Kimi Raikkonen. So Raikkonen now 2.2 seconds showing Montoya. So the battle goes on. As Michael Schumacher on lap 21 of 44, coming up to half distance, 16 seconds advantage over his own teammate, 36.6 seconds over Montoya in third.
It is another demonstration drive from Schumacher in particular, but from the entire Ferrari team, with Rubens Barrichello very comfortably in second place and miles ahead of Montoya, who's running in third. Then it's Coulthard and Raikkonen. Fisichella now is running in sixth place, but Fisichella has yet to make his stop, so they put a lot of fuel on board the Jordan at the start of the race, John, because they've managed to get down to lap 20 before he's made his pit stop. I'm not sure if they're ready yet, but Fisichella's still running.
Well, Fisichella, the only way is to get him up into the points is to let him do that. He's currently in sixth, of course. When he comes in, he'll tumble down the field, but it'll only all wash out when the remaining cars are doing a two-stop strategy come in. So it was a courageous move on the part of Jordan. It was probably the best move they could have made, bearing in mind from where Fisichella was starting on 14th position, row 7 of the grid. And you never know if Fisichella can just get on and drive his own race. He hasn't got any traffic, obviously clearly ahead of him. He's some 8 seconds behind Raikkonen.
Listen up.
The trouble is he's got truly 1.6 seconds behind him to keep him honest.
Yes, indeed, yes, 1.6 seconds only is the Renault behind him, and lap time last time around very similar, almost to the 100th of a second.
Box, Giancarlo, box this lap.
Right,
please
now
confirm, please confirm you're coming into the box.
Wait for him to confirm. Don't know whether we'll hear that.
Through T2, through T2. We can't get radio confirmation with him at the minute, so we're not sure what's happening here.
Giancarlo, box, 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 come into the box now.
Well, he's been called in, and I just wonder, as we come up...
Box.
Let's hope his radio's working, we'll soon find out.
As he comes up to half distance, this is the 22nd lap of 44, exactly half distance, so he comes very close to the end of the barrier. Can Jordan get enough fuel in just to do a one-stop? Have they got life enough in the tyres? We'll have a look when he comes to a standstill.
It's going to take a while, so nice and steady on the wheels.
Well, there's a one-stopper. Gary Anderson saying it's going to take a lot of fuel.
So watch the fuel hose go in now. Don't expect to see a stop as rapid as we have for the others. They're refueling for the entire rest of the race distance, and that's going to take nearly 15 seconds, maybe even, oh no, not so much actually, 12.2 at the end, so pretty good stop.
Oh, battle, look at this. McNish gets it sideways. Massa looks for the opportunity. So we've got Ferrari stroke Petronas power versus that of Toyota, but Massa's been very pumped up. Can he get close? This is where McNish lost out before, so Massa's going to try and slip into that slipstream. He's closing gradually, but he's too far, but he's catching. McNish was very generous previously. Will he be so generous with Massa? Not this time.
No, brakes just as late as Massa by the looks of things. These two are battling over 13th position. They have both made their stops. In fact, everybody now, with Fisichella having come in, has made their first pit stop. And it looks like just Fisichella is going. Oh, and Massa makes a big mistake there.
Yeah, big lock-up. Just grabbed that inside front wheel. Couldn't slow the car down. And now Felipe Massa with his own teammate 0.8 of a second behind. So any error from Massa will be punished by Nick Heidfeld.
Yeah, so it's a good little contest between the two Sauber teammates. Just watch him down the hill. Massive braking forces into the right and left at Fagnes. And Giancarlo Fisichella then, the only guy going for the one-stop strategy here. I wonder if it's going to work out in his favour by the end of the race. There you can see him back on track once again. And the Jordan boys know they've done their bit for the afternoon, if it goes according to plan. Of course, if he has a problem, he'll be back into the pits. Takuma Sato still running. He's down in 17th place. We haven't seen Peter Sauber smiling that much this weekend, but he looks a little happier at the moment, even though his two cars are running 14th and 15th currently. There is Fisichella just ahead of Olivier Panis, so that puts him in 15th place as he crosses the line. The confirmation of that, so he's right at the back, but of course everybody else ahead of him will be making one more pit stop.
So it's a long day's work for Giancarlo Fisichella. The one-stop strategy, it only pays dividends when you come to the last 3 or 4 laps. Certainly once the second round of pit stops is shaken out, then we will know whether the wisdom of doing this was worthwhile. It's going to be difficult, I think, to get him in the points, but it depends. In second pit stop, anything can go wrong. Once again, Massa locks up. Nick Heidfeld gathers up the car, picks up the speed, and now Felipe Massa's got to be looking backwards more than he's looking forwards towards Alan McNish.
Yeah, that was a mistake from Massa, and Heidfeld seen it, sensing the opportunity. Oh, this is getting a bit risky, boys. Don't take each other off. Peter Sauber would not have a smile on his face then.
No, there's no point in Heidfeld doing what he's doing, because there's no way around the outside of the corner there. It's very slippery on the outside. You just got to be patient, wait for the opportunities where they come. There are certain parts of the circuit where Heidfeld may be slightly better than Felipe Massa, but round the outside in the reverse corner is not one of those places.
Got two drivers who are currently don't have a seat for next year. That's McNish and Massa, both striving to earn a seat for the 2003 season. Behind them we've got Nick Heidfeld, who has got his confirmed seat at Sauber for next year, and Heidfeld looking for any opportunity to nip past his less experienced Brazilian teammate. So 23 laps completed, we're over the half distance marker now, and it's still all about the two Ferraris. Michael Schumacher having a 19-second lead over Barrichello.
You know, you'd think if you're running 17th and last in the race, you wouldn't be trying very hard. Well, Takuma Sato is trying his hardest, because he's just recorded fastest sector times in the first 2 sectors on his, what is now his 24th lap.
Still watching this battle between the two Saubers and Alan McNish, and it is the battle for 12th, remember. Just looking back now from Felipe Massa's car, flashing past the grandstands, using the curb. Such a dramatic shot as you watch the car behind coming up through Eau Rouge. That steep incline taken at 200 miles per hour. The car cornering at its maximum pace just about, and now up to Les Coombes once again. And it's still the battle that continues, but up front it's all about Michael Schumacher.
And that car, just, it's serene the way it climbs up through the Eau Rouge over Radion, and now Takuma Sato, he's already going to be lapped. There's Sato, there is the race leader. So Takuma Sato, his last lap 151.3, Michael Schumacher's last lap 148.1. So 3 seconds per lap difference, and he's just going to eat him up. And basically by the time they get to the bus stop, I think you're going to find the gap to Sato and to Michael Schumacher virtually. Well, Sato's going to have to start using his mirrors. He'll be getting blue flags and blue lights in the cockpit.
Astonishing performance this, John, so far from Michael Schumacher. 24 laps have been completed. He has nearly 45 seconds over Juan Pablo Montoya. That equates to nearly 2 seconds a lap, effectively. For the number of laps we've had and the distance between them, how can that be possible? Nearly 2 seconds a lap advantage for Michael over the Williams of Montoya. And when we look at the rules package in Formula One, which has had stability, it's very restrictive. It doesn't allow you a great deal of ingenuity, if you like, because all the designers have to work to the same set of rules. It just amazes me that Ferrari have been able to come up with a car this good this year.
Well, I think that, a part of the factor is that Well, Michael Schumacher's contribution to Ferrari is enormous, and it's his ability and his motivation that drives the team forward. Also, people like Ross Brawn, Rory Byrne, and many, many more in Ferrari, they've sat down and said, look, what does it take to win a Grand Prix? They're intelligent people. There are intelligent people in Williams and in McLaren as well. But Ferrari have actually managed to conquer all the requirements, and they've got reliability and they've got good horsepower to boot. I think having Bridgestone tyres over this season has also been the right choice for Ferrari.
Just looking further down the timing screens, they've still got this battle going on between Fisichella and Panis. This is fairly crucial because, of course, Fisichella's got a lot of fuel on board at the moment, but he's desperate to stay ahead of Panis, who will have to stop again later on. But it would be a great advantage to Giancarlo to stay ahead of the Frenchman. Panis knows that only too well and will look for any opportunity to nip past. They might be battling over the penultimate slot here currently, but it's still just as intense.
Down 2 gears for the Canadian. Not quite out to the edge of the curbing. We've seen others get over it, and Anthony Davidson said that's what happened. He caught that curbing, and he said every lap in this race until I went off was effectively a qualifying lap. He loved it. Sorry he made the mistake. Sorry for all the hard work the guys put in without any return.
Well, a little bit of oversteer correction there from Olivier Panis. These two Honda-powered cars looking fairly evenly matched, and although Panis, I think, capable of going that much quicker, he should be able to go past Fisichella, you would think, with consider the difference in fuel loading in those two cars, but he just can't quite find a way, and much the same story here. It's still McNish, Massa and Heidfeld enjoying their own little private tussle.
Well, I think the difficulty is, although the Jordan is heavier, they've got identical engines. The Jordan is the better of the two cars. I think there's no question about that. And every time Olivier Panis gets close to the back of the Jordan, usually it's coming up to a corner, then I suspect he would say after the race, well, I just lost front-end bite and I couldn't do any more than I was doing.
Just a quick point to mention that we saw Ralf Schumacher spin earlier on, you'll remember, and he dropped a position to Jarno Trulli. Trulli now running in 6th place, but Ralf has just caught him up a little bit over the last few laps, so that the gap between them is 0.8 of a second. So Ralf isn't quite close enough to really pressurise Trulli, but there is a closing of the gap between the Renault and the Williams, chasing that last World Championship point, of course.
Yeah, and the lap difference is about 0.2 of a second on the last lap. I mean, what Ralf Schumacher has got is that with the car and with the horsepower he has from BMW, should be able to find a way past the Renault principally. Again, it's that run through Eau Rouge over the top and all the way up to Les Combes. That's going to be the place where his strengths are the greatest, or alternatively the run from Stablo all the way up to the bus stop. But we've seen in the past Ralf sometimes not too keen to do that very courageous heart-in-the-mouth dive down the inside. Certainly here not close enough, but run up to La Source. If he gets a good exit out of that, a good run down Eau Rouge, he should have sufficient advantage to be able to pick up the slipstream of Jarno Trulli and at least, you know, shows an attempt at getting past.
Well, we shall wait and see, but this is the battle we're looking at now for 6th place between the Italian, Jarno Trulli. Great experience in Formula 1, but he's only ever had one podium finish. That was a 2nd place in the European Grand Prix some years ago. Ralf, of course, has had Grand Prix wins, but now has to try and find a way of extracting a little bit of an advantage out of the Williams to find a way past the Renault. Same tyres, both on the Michelin tyres, so nothing to choose between them there. Might expect the BMW engine perhaps to provide a little more horsepower than the Renault engine at this stage.
Well, that would be my argument all the way through. Ralph's got, I'm sure he's got the best part of 40 or 50 horsepower more than Jarno Trulli has. It doesn't always mean that you're going to be quicker. They've got, I'm sure, identical tyres in terms of the choice of tyres that both teams went for. So it really comes down to the basic fundamentals of the efficiency of the car, and maybe the aerodynamics on the Renault are more efficient than those on the Williams, and the balance of aerodynamics against engine power is basically keeping things status quo.
Now this could be interesting because Michael Schumacher, having lapped Takuma Sato, is now caught for battle between Olivier Panis and Giancarlo Fisichella. Now the blue flags will be coming out for Olivier Panis first of all, of course, so that will mean he'll have to back off. Really just depends. There you are, blue flag on our screen as well. That blue box in the bottom right-hand corner indicates that the drivers are being given that. Remember, they have a light system in the car nowadays, so they not only see the flags around the track, they have a light on in the car.
But watch, I assume Panis is going to let Michael Schumacher go on the exit. There he does. He pulls over, Michael goes through. Now what Panis wants to do is swoop in behind the Ferrari and get sucked along and try and find a way to get past Giancarlo Fisichella. It's one of those moves the driver hopes for. Rarely does it ever come off, because the reality is Michael's able to pull away sufficiently quickly from Olivier Panis that any hope of this happening, well, there you see the gap is almost double to what it was, and now Michael will find a way past Fisichella. Difficult part of the track to let it go through. Well, he does. Michael goes up the inside. Fisichella loses momentum. That will give Panis some hope and a run up into the bus stop. So basically the gap should come back to where it was before Michael Schumacher became involved.
Yes, he had to get onto the dirty area of track on the outside there. So, of course, if that messes up his tyres, he could be in trouble from panic. But as you say, the gap between them now looks almost identical to as it was before Michael came up to lap them. So Renault now looking as though they're ready for Trulli to come into the pits. Of course, we lost Button, I'm afraid, earlier on in this race with engine failure. We have had 3 retirements from the race, the 2 Minardis and the Renault of Jenson Button.
Just we got a glimpse of the rear tyre in Ralf Schumacher's car. Looks to me like that right rear is pretty low on tread. In fact, there's no tread other than the outside shoulder. A bit of no, they just got the air starter in case there's a problem for Sato. No problem, goodish, 10.3 seconds, probably not quite as good as they'd have liked. David Coulthard runs in 3rd place, 1.8 seconds behind Montoya. Looks more when you see them come through Blanchimont, but of course it's measured as they come across start-finish line.
So Sato on a different strategy, of course, to Fisichella, and Sato has been running last, was lapped just recently by Michael Schumacher, but he's made his 2nd stop, and they had to fill the car up for 16 laps still to go. Now Raikkonen, here he is, as you said, a little bit behind Coulthard, and Coulthard himself 2.1 seconds behind Juan Pablo Montoya. These 3 have been together throughout this race from the very first lap, and that's not going to be decided until we get to the end of this race, I think.
So Sauber waiting, and as Renault now, well, they've done their service, they just walk back out onto the pits. In fact, no, they're waiting for the service for Trulli to come in. Kimi Raikkonen, some 2.5 seconds behind his teammate. David Coulthard did lose out on that last lap, went from 1.7 to 2.1 seconds, just under half a second. So Montoya appeared to be able to run that little bit quicker. That was lap 28. And Raikkonen struggling, I think, very much like all the Michelin runners in the race. They have not got the pace, the drop-off in performance between that one single qualifying lap that we saw, particularly from Raikkonen, but also to a lesser degree from the 2 Williams. And it's, whoa, Massa. Well, there's a bit of a charge and a barge, and that was just over the top from Felipe Massa.
And you saw how it cost him as well, because they couldn't get the jack under the front of the car.
Still did a good job, though, 9 seconds in spite of that. Possibly lost a good second or more, while Felipe was just over the top. Michael gets past Heidfeld, so Heidfeld now goes a lap down.
And the interesting thing here will be, will Massa, as a result of that pit stop, be able to get past Alan McNish? Of course, we'll wait for McNish's 2nd stop before we can find that out, for Ferrari are preparing. So Ferrari now getting ready themselves for a 2nd stop coming up. Presumably Michael Schumacher, he was the first to stop the first time around. We are on lap number 30. This was Massa coming in a bit too fast, and his poor front jackman pushed well out of the way.
Yes, and also the 2 front wheel changes very close to getting clobbered as he sort of slithered to a stop. So McNish with pressure from Michael Schumacher putting a lap. Michael will want to get past. McNish does the right thing, backs off. What he doesn't on the line means Michael's got to go offline. He'll not be overly pleased about that. He might have a little word. Backs off. What he doesn't on the line means Michael's got to go offline. He'll not be overly pleased about that. He might have a little word quietly with McNish and say, when you're being lapped, you go offline, not the race leader.
Well, we're expecting Michael Schumacher in. We see Jarno Trulli into the pits as well as the Renault team go to work. They are desperately trying to keep Trulli in position ahead of Ralf Schumacher, remember. That is the battle between these 2. It was less than a second before these pit stops were made. And now Michael, is he coming in?
Michael Schumacher is coming in, as is McNish. So Toyota and Ferrari coming into the pit lane. Race leader comes in, lap 29.
And so's Heidfeld as well. So there's a battle going on between Toyota and Sauber for position. And remember, Massa is already back on track, having made his pit stop. So Michael in, smooth, neat and tidy. No problems coming to a stop. We watch the mechanics at work. And again, the well-drilled crew practicing every eventuality, makes it look easy. heads on down pit lane.
Sticker tyres in the front. Barrichello comes up. He's going to regain the lead, but it'll be brief.
And there was McNish just coming out. It was going to be close between McNish. Yeah, he got out in front again of Heidfeld. Where's Massa? There's Massa. Now Massa's got a bit of a run on McNish. These two have been battling. Here comes Massa.
He's got it. There's no way McNish is going to challenge him just out of the pits like that. Not with a fired up, inspired. Well, Felipe Massa, courageous. I wouldn't want to go eyeball into that turn, particularly just coming out of the pits where your tyres are just fresh as they are. And you'd like to get one corner through you before you start challenging someone like Felipe Massa.
So Massa has taken advantage of that. Then Sauber can draw a bit of sigh of relief. It's not for points, I'm afraid. They're a long way down the order, but a bit of personal satisfaction, if nothing else. That brings Massa ahead of Alan McNish and the Toyota. Now Barrichello leads this race by just a fraction after Michael Schumacher has made his second stop. It's amazing to see how close they are on the road, though, considering Michael's now made 2 stops.
Yes, I think it's just awesome what we've seen from the world champion here this afternoon. I think he made a point in Hungary when he dropped back behind Barrichello and then drew up some 4.5 seconds, and then 2 laps drew up to the tail, set a new lap record in that race, but has just driven away from his teammate. Different tyres, of course. That looks like Irvine or De La Rosa. It's in fact Irvine, yes, Irvine and Salo in. So De La Rosa and Salo have got out of sync, which is probably just as well for both teams.
A pretty good stop.
A good stop, Irvine, who came in 8th. Let's see it, Mika Salo. Salo goes by, he came in 10th, so this battle for the final top 10 positions, not really a battle between Salo and Irvine, more a battle with Irvine and De La Rosa, who has been running strongly in 7th.
Still 17 cars in this race, only 3 retirements so far, and Davidson, Button and Webber, the unlucky trio not to have got to this stage. Rubens Barrichello into the pits then from 2nd position.
So the well-oiled machine goes back into action. It looks so simple. The wheels come off, the wheels go on. There's none of this sort of jamming that we've seen in the past where heat expansion at different rates. At 9.1 seconds, well, 0.3 of a second slower than we saw for Michael Schumacher. Rubens comes down the pit lane, nobody coming up the start-finish line, so he rejoins the track, clear air, and when this lap is completed, no doubt he will find himself back in 2nd place.
3rd place man is Juan Pablo Montoya, and he's still a long way behind, despite the fact that Rubens Barrichello has made his 2nd stop. There you can see Montoya just coming through Eau Rouge, and indeed Williams are now preparing for the next stop, which we presume will be Ralf Schumacher.
It is. Ralf has come into the pits, so Ralf having a disappointing weekend, had that spin up at Les Combes, running in 6th place when he came into the pit lane. De La Rosa much further behind, not in contention in reality, so let's watch and see what Williams do.
Problem.
It wasn't in gear, or had he a problem selecting gear, or was it a clutch? Something's wrong with the Williams, and Ralf Schumacher really struggling. I wonder, was that either the clutch or the gearbox? He seemed to struggle, just hesitated, almost came to a standstill, got it. Oh, watch the white line. That could have been an error, could have been a drive-through penalty.
Battle for position here, yep, that is Villeneuve going through there, John, because he was behind Trulli and Ralf before the pit stop, so Villeneuve has gained a place on Ralf Schumacher.
There's only 1 stop, so he's got to come back in again. So Ralf doesn't really have to worry very much. What he needs to do is not get trapped behind Villeneuve as we wait for Villeneuve to make his 2nd stop.
Trulli definitely gaining an advantage there. We saw them close together before those stops, and Ralf might have been able to get out in front if they hadn't had this problem. Let's watch again.
That just wouldn't go into gear, and I think he stripped the gear. I think he might have stripped 1st gear.
Yeah, it looks a bit like it, maybe. I wonder if the speed limiter worked okay when he had to change up there as well, John. So there's always a risk he might have gone over the speed limit.
Yeah, but I think the trouble was, I think if he did strip 1st gear, by the time he got it all sorted out, get into 2nd, I don't think he would have been. But you never know, he's quite a long way from the end of the pit lane. We will know certainly if he has done, because that information will be made available to us very quickly. So back out on track, he shouldn't really need that gear again, though. The La Source hairpin bend traditionally is a 1st gear corner, though you can take it in 2nd gear. It just loses you a momentary amount of time.
Now, the fun side of this 2nd round of pit stops will be the battle between Montoya in the Williams and the 2 McLarens of Coulthard and Raikkonen. Remember that they're running 3rd, 4th and 5th at the moment, well inside the points. It could all change on that 2nd stop between the Williams and McLaren. Up through the bus stop. Villeneuve still not stopping for the 2nd time, so he remains ahead for the moment of Ralf Schumacher. Behind them, of course, we'll expect to see Eddie Irvine having made his stop. He's coming through the bus stop chicane at the moment.
De La Rosa's in, but Villeneuve going through the bus stop really monstered the curb as he went through it, aware that this is a race for position, that Ralf Schumacher, the longer he can hold him behind him, well, it's not going to help Villeneuve particularly, but at least it keeps Irvine, who is now running behind him, behind Ralf Schumacher, keeps him behind Villeneuve also.
Yeah, so for Jarno Trulli, this is a little bit of respite, perhaps, as we get into the latter stages of the race. Into the pits has just come Olivier Panis, by the way, so he has made his second stop. Remember, Fisichella is gradually moving up the order, having made just the one stop. People who've made second stops are now peeling off in front of him, so Fisichella now up to 12th currently, and I wonder how many more places he'll make as other people come in. Not so many more places. So Michael Schumacher continues around, and we're expecting Montoya to be in at the end of this lap.
He's in the pit lane already. So Juan Pablo Montoya is in, and we wait to see what the McLaren are going to do. Coulthard now up to third, Raikkonen up to fourth. There is Montoya.
So the Colombian yet to win a race in the 2002 season. Going back to Monza in a couple of weeks, where it all went well for him last year. He gets out of the pits fairly cleanly, 7.4 seconds.
That's about the quickest race I think we've seen all day. So that's pretty good for Juan Pablo. That'll help him in his battle with the two McLarens, because when they come in, it'll be, well, 59 litres, 12 laps. And we're on lap 34, so 12 of that makes, it'll be plenty of fuel. So we just keep an eye on what McLarens are doing now that they've got clear of Montoya. Coulthard has the chance to pick up, as does Raikkonen, so they're running in the high 49s. Michael Schumacher's last lap, 49.5. Coulthard's last lap, 49.8. Raikkonen's last lap, 49.9.
So it is, it's going to be this last pit stops for the two McLarens that shows us whether Montoya is going to maintain the edge over them in this Belgian Grand Prix. Jarno Trulli still looking to score the point for 6th place. And remember, he has now made both of his pit stops, and he has that little advantage over Ralf Schumacher, who struggled so much to get out of the pits, and there must be concerns about the health of that car, seeing how much it struggled to get out of the pits. If he has stripped a gear, all those little bits of metal must be floating around in the gearbox and not making life too easy.
McLaren preparing. So Coulthard in third, Raikkonen in fourth. The team come out. This will be a relatively short stop, probably not dissimilar in time to that of Juan Pablo Montoya. That was 7.4 seconds. And they don't want to be much longer than that, because they want to get back out, and that's the only way they're going to do so, to get ahead of Montoya for that third and final podium position.
So into the pits, and it is Kimi Raikkonen, the first of the two McLarens, to make his way in. And currently, remember, he runs behind teammate David Coulthard. He comes in from fourth because of Montoya having made his pit stop. But let's just see how quick the McLaren boys can get this service done.
And Coulthard has just given his fastest race lap on lap 34. So he's using that opportunity to run clear of Montoya to try and help the process.
Now Montoya's turning through La Source now. The jack almost came with Raikkonen then. They didn't quite release the jack from the rear of the car. So that was a slight cause for concern. Montoya's out well ahead of Raikkonen. It's Coulthard that will really be the interesting one.
There's a small puff, I thought, of blue smoke as he came out of the pits. It may just have been difficult to tell. Yeah, I think there's a little bit you could just see up over Eau Rouge as well. That finest puff of blue smoke. Coulthard again on lap 35, fastest first sector time, so he is absolutely on the limit. He knows he's got to take opportunities when he's got them. This is an opportunity. When he comes into the pits, he wants to have picked up as much time as possible on Raikkonen and on Montoya.
Yes, Montoya to that first sector about 0.2 of a second slower. But there's a definite little bit of concern about some smoke from the back of the McLaren of Kimi Raikkonen.
Remember, we saw that at Monte Carlo when they had a problem with their oil tank and they had to use the telemetry to pump oil from one tank back into another. Now, whether that's the same problem, whether it's a separate problem, we just got the first hint of that haze as he came out of the pits. There was a similar one just up over the Radillon.
Now, let's just wait and see. Here comes David Coulthard, hopping over the curb. This is his crucial stop. Oh, he really slams on the anchors as he reaches the marker of the speed limit. Now he just has to sit with the button pressed and keep it to the speed limit, 80 kilometers per hour, 50 miles an hour, all the way down to the McLaren pit. And they're into position now. Let's watch for Montoya. He's heading through the bus stop.
So Montoya in third place. Raikkonen somewhere behind him. Coulthard coming again.
Fantastic stop there.
6.2 seconds. There is Coulthard. There is Montoya. It is not going to happen. He will rejoin in fourth place behind the Colombian, but he will certainly be close enough to him to at least get something out of that superb stop by McLaren.
So they must have started, David, with a fair old bit of fuel at the start of this race, because two fairly rapid stops for him. And the car must have been reasonably heavy in the early stages, but it isn't quite enough for them to get him out, back ahead. And what's this, bit of clearing up still going on in the McLaren pit, or is there some other concern
Well,
here?
Raikkonen's coming in. Raikkonen has got a problem. We picked that up on the exit. He's coming in, and we're looking at the times. Kimi Raikkonen, I think, is out of this race. He's going to come in and drive straight into the garage, because that blue haze where we saw coming out of the left-hand side. Well, there's the blue haze. It is now an absolute, and that's how he's going to stop. He can't even make it back to the pits. So that's up at the top of the circuit at Lake Coombe, and Kimi Raikkonen's weekend is over with a bang.
That is such a shame. He had a run of bad reliability earlier on this season, lost an engine in Malaysia very dramatically, remember, also had an engine go at the A1 ring, but what a shame. Germany too, ultimately. Sorry, the British Grand Prix had an engine failure as well, but it's Raikkonen out after his great qualifying performance yesterday. So he clambers out, and it's just the end of a disappointing day. What it does do, of course, John, brings somebody else into the points.
Ralf Schumacher now comes into the points, because he was running in 7th place, so he'll now be 6th, and Eddie Irvine will go up as well into 7th, and well, there's a sad end. We just noticed that it's strange, and there's Trulli as well.
Oh no!
So Renault out, so now Irvine is in the points, because Trulli's retired. They've seen Kimi Raikkonen retire, both on lap 37. So all of a sudden, two serious contenders in the top 6 are out of this race.
And guess what? Eddie Irvine will be in the points. Jaguar will be in 6th position as a result of Trulli pulling off. I feel bad for Renault, but it is pretty exciting for Eddie Irvine.
But it's also, you got Mika Salo only 2.1 seconds behind Irvine. So by the time Irvine comes through, finds that he's gone from 8th to 6th, he's obviously going to be a happy camper, but he has to keep the pressure on, because Salo, 2.1 seconds. The difference in lap time is that Irvine is fractionally faster, so it shouldn't in reality be a threat or a challenge to Jaguar, but nonetheless it's sufficient on lap 37 to keep Irvine honest.
So Michael Schumacher, well, he's ahead of all this what's going on behind. And we're taking another look here at the battle that's going on between Villeneuve and Fisichella. This is the battle over 11th. So Fisichella with that, 9th place, with the other people having stopped on the last lap. It's actually 9th. Fisichella's made up a fair bit of ground, courtesy of his single stop strategy, but he now finds himself with a 7.9 gap between himself and De La Rosa. So there's not much prospect of him actually earning more places.
No, I think that all he can do is defend his position. He's got Villeneuve pressing Fisichella for that 9th spot. Of course, money is paid because of the way that finances are arranged, so it's important, because when it all comes out at the end of the year, your positions all count, it's all tabulated, and it all goes towards the income of a team. So this is a battle, and while it's a battle of pride as much as anything else regarding the two Honda teams, Fisichella's struggling really as much as Villeneuve as they come through Rivage.
Coulthard's still keeping close to Montoya, isn't he? This is the battle for 3rd, remember, and Coulthard, despite that great pit stop from McLaren Mercedes, didn't get out ahead of the Colombian, but now he's certainly keeping pace with him.
Well, he's certainly pushing hard, because he was very quick in that first sector. He can get so close, and then he maybe has to be careful in the middle sector, where Montoya's car isn't as good as the McLaren, but he can't get close enough to pass. Also, Ralf Schumacher suddenly woken up. He's pressing a little bit harder too, but running in the 1:51s, where these two are running in the 49s. They're in fact running quicker than race leader, quicker than 2nd place.
Yes, Michael Schumacher has really backed off the pace, certainly on the last lap. He may have been dealing with traffic, but it was a 1:52. These guys in the 1:49 second bracket. But just to remind you, Michael Schumacher has fastest lap in this race at a 1:47, a full 2, nearly 3 seconds faster than the pace they're setting.
Ben Mika Salo, well, it was 1.8 seconds, just catches as they come across the line, so it's back to 2 seconds. So Salo clearly pushing also to try and take that final point championship situation, number 6. Irvine holds it, Salo wants it.
Two very experienced campaigners, John, Eddie Irvine and Mika Salo. The two of them raced against one another in Japan for several years and have both very extensive Grand Prix careers. Sala, we know, will not be likely to be racing next year. He sort of semi-announced his retirement earlier this week, only to backtrack slightly.
Oh, Pedro de la Rosa got a problem. Is that a suspension problem?
Right rear.
Or tyre or suspension. And that was a hairy, scary moment as he came up to Les Combes. And there you were right, Ben, absolutely the rear suspension. And, well, that caught Pedro.
Failure, rear suspension failure. I retire.
Well done. I mean, that was a big, scary moment. And Felipe Massa also stops.
Oh, that's a great shame. He'd got himself into 11th place ahead of McNish.
Was there any contact or was there anything? Because these two, no, they weren't together on the track. They were well apart. Now, the top of the circuit, we've got 3 cars up there.
Okay, Pedro.
Well, we saw very few cars going out in the early stages, but boy, we're seeing a few retirements now. So to join the list of Mark Webber, Jenson Button, Anthony Davidson, we now have Jarno Trulli, Kimi Räikkönen, Pedro de la Rosa and Felipe Massa.
David Coulthard pushing fastest race lap for Coulthard. He's now 0.8 of a second. Let's have a look and see. There it is. Now watch for that right rear. It just
suddenly hits the road, doesn't it, the car?
And there you see, that's a moment where driver edge has got very little braking effect. The left front's up in the air. He's got little steering motion either, but luckily lots of space. Here's the onboard view from Pedro. All of a sudden, whoa! But look, really little panic from Pedro. Just rides the car over the grass, gets it into a slide. That helps slow it down. And, well, very composed on the thing. Rear suspension brakes. I retire.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty succinct.
Well, it's a part of the track where they're doing around 200, just over 200 miles an hour up there. So I think he was probably just on the brakes as the suspension collapsed, but it's a very fast section to go off. Now through Eau Rouge, and we've just got the 5 laps to go now for Michael Schumacher. And remember, he is heading for another spectacular blow-up.
Absolutely horrendous. Again, I think that's just at the top of radio coming up towards Les Combes, and that has gone off. I tell you, that's as big as we've seen from a Honda engine all year. I think that almost matches Panis's in the Austrian Grand Prix.
Well, it's the 4th major engine failure for Honda this weekend.
What about Villeneuve? What happened to him? He was directly behind it. He must have got a real visor helmet full of shrapnel, oil, water, and whatever else came out from the back of the Jordan.
Brings Villeneuve up into 8th place in the BAR Honda. Let's take another look here.
Same place as Panis. There, I mean, a real rooster tail, look, bits of metal falling in the air, huge lumps of metal coming out. So that's going to be a problem of traffic coming up behind. There will be red hot metal as that just flames out. It's almost like the space shuttle taking off.
That's amazing, isn't it? That's a spectacular blow up. And as you say, exactly the same place Olivier Panis pulled over.
The problem I would worry about is there's so much shrapnel come out, hot metal, probably pistons, part of the block, maybe conrods. And that could be on the track, so drivers have to be careful. Eddie Jordan sits there and wonders what has he got to do. It's been a hard year for Eddie. He's got to find a way to consolidate his position in the championship. He's in the battle for that 5th place today. No points.
No, that's right. Well, Räikkönen there is. He is getting a lift back to the pits. He's driven superbly all weekend, and a great shame that he's not going to have any points to celebrate that. Meanwhile, Montoya still looking to grab the final podium position here today. Still Coulthard very close behind him, let me tell you. Last time they came through, Coulthard in 4th was only 0.6 of a second behind Montoya.
Last lap for Michael Schumacher, 1:54, and both Ferrari drivers getting instructions from the pits to just slow down. No need. They've got a 42-second advantage over Montoya in 3rd place. Barrichello's got a 25.8-second advantage. So no real threat from Montoya in these closing laps, and just bring the 2 cars home safely. There's no race between the 2 drivers either, because Michael Schumacher has taken this Grand Prix by the scruff of the neck and just said it's mine, and it's all mine.
It is, and heading for win number 10, here comes McNish, and he's still got Sauber behind him. It's Nick Heidfeld, of course, and Panis has blown up now as well.
Well, 3 of these engine blow-ups have been on the straight. Panis does it at the very end of the straight. So Honda really on the limit with this engine. They're really producing horsepower, but at the sacrifice of reliability. We need a bit of fire extinguishment on that one, because if it keeps burning, well, it'll catch the bodywork, but they're there quickly treating it. They do enjoy dumping powder onto these things, so just stay there, guys. Don't pump any more than is necessary.
Well, what a spectacular end to the Grand Prix we're seeing for a number of the Honda runners, not just them. We've seen spectacular action from the Jaguar, that failed rear suspension. I hope that Eddie Irvine's car is going to hold out. He's holding on to 6th place.
And I think, if I'm right, that's 4 significant, and by that I mean massive blow-ups that Honda have suffered over the 3 days of here in Belgium. And Panis has had 2, Fisichella 1, and Sato 1.
Yes, well, in fact, he lost 2 engines in the first 2 days. I think that's his 3rd one, isn't it? That's his 3rd engine failure this weekend. So he really has had the worst of the luck so far this weekend.
And of course, pressure on Honda. They've got a major test coming up in Monza, which is a pure engine circuit. They've got to replace these 5 engines. So the whole cycle of servicing the engines, you know, this is what makes Formula One tough. When it gets bad for you, it gets worse.
Scary place. It's the same place, of course, that De La Rosa's suspension collapsed. Again, it's that up to over 200 miles an hour up there. This is the battle between Montoya and Coulthard. I mentioned that it was pretty close. There you can see just how close it is. Coulthard very much keeping the pressure on Montoya. There's been a few words exchanged in the press between these two over the last couple of weeks. Coulthard still smarting a little bit from the incident at the Nürburgring when Montoya took him out. Yes. And they've both been making comments about one another.
Yeah, I mean, I think that David, that's such a long time ago now, he should have put it behind him. Nevertheless, he appears to use that as an excuse for the comments that he made in one of the weekly magazines. And, you know, it's easy to make comments about another driver. Sometimes it's relevant, sometimes it's just a waste of time.
Well, I'm sure there's still a fair amount of respect between these two. It's not as if they're quite at the stage where it's no holds barred, but they've both been making their comments. Montoya made the comment that perhaps Coulthard should watch out for his teammate Raikkonen and concentrate on beating him. Coulthard actually responded, fair point. That's what I intend to do.
I think he said Montoya should have... Montoya said, yes. But, I mean, it was a fair point that Raikkonen that Montoya made, because, you know, it's all right firing off bricks at alternative and competitors, but don't forget that if you're vulnerable in your own team, and David is vulnerable in McLaren, he was out-qualified. In qualifying, he's done a very strong job. He outraced Raikkonen here today. Raikkonen retired with an engine failure, but David really had the better race car, the better race setup. That choice of the slightly harder Michelin tyres suits the driving style of David Coulthard, and of course Coulthard's forte is racing rather than being that one single blinding fast lap.
Well, he's racing hard here throughout the Grand Prix, but he's running out of time. Michael Schumacher's just gone over the line again to make it just 2 laps to go here. 2 longish laps. It's the longest Grand Prix track. Massa has walked back. It's a pretty severe looking Felipe Massa, isn't it? Usually he's got a smiley face, but no smiley face from Felipe Massa at the end of a hard-fought but ultimately overly short Grand Prix.
So into the bus stop. This is the 43rd lap. And not really much to pick and choose between them.
Amazing, even at this late stage in the Grand Prix, still using the curbs fairly hard through there. It looks like stalemate between McNish and Heidfeld as Barrichello comes up to lap them.
Yes, and of course, Michael Schumacher's dropped back even further. I mean, he's been dropping for 3 and 4 seconds a lap now on his teammate. So allowing Rubens Barrichello to close up, not to maybe highlight the domination that we've seen from the world champion here this afternoon, and to make it look a little bit more respectable. So the gap down to just under 10 seconds at 9.365 to be precise.
Well, Ferrari heading for a 1-2 finish here this weekend. Yet another one to add to their tally of 1-2 finishes so far this season. Coulthard still keeping in behind Montoya. Let's just ride on board the McLaren for a moment.
So down into Pujo, and nothing to pick and choose between the McLaren or the Williams. The gap showing 0.5 as they came across the line, and that's probably about as close as it's going to get between these two unless an overtake does come. Villeneuve into the bus stop chicane.
He's putting in some quick laps, actually. Well, 49.941 on that last lap.
Oh, and look at that. I mean, just the car gets up in the air, bounces across the curb. Very good last lap. That's the quickest lap of the race for Jacques Villeneuve as he's hunting down Mika Salo. He's 4.3 seconds behind Salo, and of course a million miles ahead of Adam McNish, who currently is in 9th.
So it's the final lap for Michael Schumacher, and he is going to establish that new record with Nigel Mansell here this weekend. Michael Schumacher will take the record for number of victories in one season. He will take it to 10, And how many more will he get? 3 more Grand Prix after this one. He could still extend that record further with the performance of this car and with Michael Schumacher at the wheel.
And there you see second place Barrichello. Oh, Nick Heidfeld, what are you doing? All locked up. He almost overran into the back of Barrichello. Now that would have been a thing on the last lap. To run into and runner in second place, Rubens Barrichello from the team that provides you with your engines. That is not a good career move, Nick.
No, Sauber nearly lost their engine contract for 2003 there, but thankfully they both survived. And Michael Schumacher is just stroking it home. He's making it all look so easy, as he has done really all weekend. And this will be the 6th Grand Prix of the year that we have seen a Ferrari 1-2 finish. And that's a pretty astonishing statistic as well. They just keep adding to the numbers game for Michael Schumacher. David Coulthard still looking to fight away past Montoya, but I really don't think it's going to happen now on this final lap. Schumacher looking for win number 63, and it's all going Ferrari's way.
There's David Coulthard pushing hard again, fastest first sector time on the last lap of the race as we go back to the race leaders. Michael Schumacher through Blanchimont for the last time. And the gap was 6.1 seconds when they came across the line. Now he slows down for the bus stop chicane, and Barrichello, well, he's not very far behind.
Michael Schumacher comes through to set the new record, 10 wins in one season. Ferrari take their 6th 1-2 finish of the year, and delight once again for the Tifosi as they show everyone how to do it.
Perfect race, well done.
Ross Brawn.
Thank you, boys. Fantastic car. I mean, unbelievable. Ooh. Really a great year what we have all together. Thank you for all of this.
Sounds like he's done nothing at all, doesn't it? He's so relaxed, so easy. That car was superb today. And the Ferraris were in a different league. As I said at one stage, he was effectively gaining 2 seconds a lap on Montoya for lap after lap. Massive advantage. In the end, it wasn't much because they backed off to close up together. But
Michael backed off the best part of 15-18 seconds over the last 5 or 6 laps. I mean, he just drove away from his teammate. Ralf Schumacher comes through. He takes 5th place, waiting for Irvine. Some 18.9 seconds behind, and a great drive for Irvine and for Jaguar, thoroughly deserved after a really tough season.
Quick shake of the hand from Montoya. Montoya had to fight for his 3rd place, and Williams today, John, just got the edge over McLaren, but it was a very evenly matched contest. But here comes Irvine to take points for only the 2nd time this year for the Jaguar team. 1 point for 6th place, and that's going to be a relief to Niki Lauda.
Yes, it is, and I just wonder whether that might be enough to keep Eddie Irvine as an incumbent driver in the team. Everybody's talking about Mark Webber on the verge of joining Jaguar, but remember, Irvine is a very, very good race driver. He's still fast, and do you bring in an inexperienced driver, relatively speaking, such as Mark, to join Pedro de la Rosa, or do you keep for 1 more year what you've got? And I think that equation is becoming a bit of a difficult one to work out.
5th place for Ralf Schumacher, so he picked up the 2 points for that position. But in the battle, certainly Montoya just gaining the edge over Coulthard. It was pretty hard between the two of them all the way. Little discussion going on in there in the minibus.
Yeah, they all look very cool, calm, and not particularly physically worked out. So they'll be bussed down to the press room, to the unilaterals, and we'll get an interview with Michael Schumacher. He can tell us, I'm sure, that this was the best Ferrari I've ever had. The tyres were, I've never had better Bridgestones.
So there we are, the results from Belgium. Schumacher Barrichello make it a Ferrari 1-2 again. Montoya beats Coulthard in a battle that proceeded throughout the race. Ralf Schumacher made 1 mistake, had a poor pit stop as well, ended up 5th, and Eddie Irvine getting the final point in 6th. Salo and Villeneuve had a hard afternoon, but had nothing really to take home from it, except 7th and 8th places. No points were rewarded there. McNish in 9th, another Grand Prix finish for him at least, ahead of Heidfeld. And the other finishers were Takuma Sato and Olivier Panis. They were classified, Panis, although of course he didn't actually finish the race because he suffered that very spectacular engine failure. But enough laps completed to still be classified.
I think we've seen the domination of dominations today, and I don't know what Rubens Barrichello must think. He had the choice of the race car or the spare car. He went for the spare car. He also opted for the harder of the 2 Bridgestone tyres. No doubt that hurt him in overall pace, but of course it's about a balance and the ability to open the throttle, and he felt that was better for him. But the penalty was he was never really in the show today with Michael. In the initial laps he It's ran behind him, but once Michael's got his head down, he set that sequence of lap record after lap record and just pulled away from the Brazilian. And I think that, well, Ruby's face, he seems happy enough. He knows.
That's interesting. He's saying his water bottle wasn't working.
It was nice after doing that. Just I didn't.
Well, they're all happy campers. You know, they're like schoolboys when they get together after a rugby match. It's all get a few beers in, lads, and that's a bit of a sing-song. You know, they've got to go through the press conference and all the other responsibilities before they can do that.
He's like his mum now. He's getting him to do his sort himself out, tidy himself up. It's that new beard, you know.
Well, it's good to see the competition on the field is intense. There have been words and almost words and war between Montoya and Michael Schumacher. Rubens maybe not quite in that league, but now just waiting to go into the unilateral room to hear what they have to say to describe their particular day's race. And we'll very quickly be able to go in and join them and find out. I'm interested in Montoya really, because having had a difficult weekend so far, he managed to come through to take that final podium position and elevate himself above Ralph Schumacher to be near third in the championship.
Time for them to come out. There is Ross. First time they've found each other since the end of the Grand Prix. And a hug for both drivers, who now make their way out onto the podium. Opposite the huge grandstand on the run down towards Eau Rouge. And it's a 6th win in Belgium for Michael Schumacher. He takes over the outright record for wins in Belgium. He was tied with Senna, and now, once again, he's a step ahead. Wins in one season. Michael Schumacher has broken the record that he held and Nigel Mansell held jointly, but now it's all changed once again as he wins in Belgium. The venue of his first ever Grand Prix victory back in 1992, and here he is setting yet more records. Ross Brawn celebrating a 1-2 finish, took constructor and further extending that mighty constructors lead. They're already the constructors champions, remember, but they're making the rest of them look a little bit silly at the moment, despite all those hours of hard work and millions poured in by the likes of McLaren and Williams. They just had no answer for Ferrari.
And can you imagine what it's going to be like in 2 weeks' time when we go to Monza for the Italian Grand Prix? With this type of domination, that place is going to be buzzing. And the prospects of what we've seen here today being repeated in Monza unless there's some real drop-off in tyres, I have to say we can only expect very much the same.
Well, Ferrari fans are delighted. Time for the champagne shower. Ross is staying there. He's not run around the corner yet. There's a bit of a battle going on with Ross Rubens.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's going to win that battle, because Ross is a big old fella, and Rubens, as tough as he is, you know, Ross has got the advantage of bulk, I think, in that one.
Very wet and very sticky. Oh, it's good to see Rubens actually having a little drink of it as well.
Yeah, well, Ross does appreciate a nice bottle of wine, the mum champagne being sprayed, but of course when it gets in your eyes, it stings, it's sticky. And Michael doing that wonderful impersonation of a French wine waiter, where he anyway, puts it up to his mouth and just pours it. Those are handed down to the team take them back to Maranello and they display them proudly.
Time for the photographs to capture the moment, and a big smile on Michael Schumacher's face, and they will be heading down to the press conference room in just a few moments' time. Michael can be asked, how does he feel? Well, he says he doesn't always find it very easy to talk about how he feels at moments like this. And of course, beating that record, perhaps not quite as significant as some of the other records he has achieved, but it is significant nonetheless, a mark of Ferrari's performance advantage this year.
Yes, I mean, Nigel Mansell did it in a time when he really did have a massive technical advantage with the active Williams Renault that he raced in, and but Nigel used it incredibly efficiently to win those 9 races, as he won his World Championship in the Hungarian Grand Prix. Michael was able to do it just that little bit earlier, and now has gone on to exceed those 9 Grand Prix wins in the season. But one has to say the advantage that Michael Schumacher and Ferrari have enjoyed this year is equal really to that of Nigel and Williams back some 10 years ago.
Yes, I would agree with that, John, and maybe not in quite such an obvious way in terms of the Williams package that year, but with the restriction on the rules these days, in some ways it's even more remarkable that they've been able to come up with a car that has this sort of performance advantage over the likes of McLaren and Williams.
And it's not just performance, it's fundamentally reliability. This is the 50th occasion, another anniversary when Ferrari have been on the podium, at least one driver. Here they got 2 drivers. So to celebrate your 50th anniversary with both drivers on the podium, first and second, I mean, where do you go? You've got all the superlatives, there's none left.
Well, I'm sure it'll only fire up the likes of Ron Dennis and Frank Williams to come back at them next year. It might be the fact that they've had to write off the 2002 season. They won't give up in the remaining 3 Grand Prix, and I'm sure that given a little edge, a little change in weather conditions, they'll still be hunting for victories. But you have to say, 2002 is about Ferrari, it's about Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello. Next year could be a very different story. Lots of people enjoying the mood here in Belgium. Big celebrations for the Ferrari fans. And the drivers have already made their way to the press conference room, so let's hear from them right now.
Congratulations, gentlemen. A very fine Belgian Grand Prix. Victory to Michael Schumacher, 2nd place to Rubens Barrichello, and 3rd place to Juan Pablo Montoya. Michael, a record 10th win a year. No one's ever done that before. Your 6th win here, and not only that, this is the 50th consecutive race with Ferrari driver on the podium. It looked like the perfect race from the outside.
It very much did. I mean, I think we haven't really expected anything like that. We were optimistic. We had a very good weekend altogether, but you never know what is going to happen in the race with temperature and so on, with different tires. Then we managed a very good start where Rubens and myself, we immediately went up front, and that was basically the decision for the race, where we could drive our own pace and drive it home.
Now, with the work done, 2 successful stints, 2 pit stops, you came back out and you had a lead of over 25 seconds, and at the end it was down to 2 seconds. Was that you just taking it as easy as you could, or were there any problems?
There was no problems. I mean, we saw a lot of engines, they blew up, and it was just precaution that there's no reason to stress anything harder than necessary. Obviously, there's 2 seconds between Rubens and myself, but there was another 10 seconds, I think, roughly to Juan Pablo, and in this case, we were able to take it a little bit more easy.
Michael, thank you. Congratulations. Rubens, as Michael said, you both made good starts and you managed to work your way past Kimi Räikkönen by the first corner, so that must have given you a great deal of pleasure.
Oh yeah, because it was on the back of my mind how quick Kimi could go, and obviously by overtaking him by the start, it was a lot easier for us to just set our times. Unfortunately, I mean, I had a lot of trouble this morning with the setup, so I was a little bit in the dark for the race, and I had a little bit too many blisters on the tire. But altogether, I think from where I started on Friday with the small problems on setup and everything, I think it has been a good weekend.
Now, it looked as though you had a rather nasty surprise with a few laps to go when you came onto the start-finish straight and found a wall of smoke from Felipe Massa's engine.
Yeah, not just that, but it was panies on the top of the hill as well. I thought, they were, right in front of me both times, and I was looking not just to find a way, but to see if there was oil, because if you get the oil, you're just a passenger. So, but luckily, I managed to go through.
Rubens, thank you. Juan Pablo, like Rubens, you also managed to put Kimi Räikkönen behind you in the early laps, but you never really managed to drop him off your tail or David Coulthard, so it was a hard race.
I think it was a pretty hard race. I think especially with Kim at the beginning. We pitted the first lap at the same time, and when we pitted, I think it put a lot more fuel in to go longer, but after that I never saw him again. Then was the fight with David to the end. I think it was very important the hour laps were quick enough to manage to stay ahead.
Now, with Rubens finishing second and you third today, he's stretched his advantage to 7 points over you in the battle for second place. Any chance you can turn that round?
But you never know. If Rubens has one DNF, things could turn around really quickly. So, we'll see. Next few races, hopefully quite strong for us.
Juan Pablo, thank you. Michael, finally back to you. Next race, Monza, home of a certain team for which you drive. Very good place to maybe go for win number 11 and stretch that record of yours.
I don't think we should ask for too much, honestly. I mean, we have achieved so much this year that it would be probably a little bit, arrogant to ask for more. We just take what comes and we do our best. And obviously, we would like to do our best and take another victory as Ferrari in Monza, because that's our home Grand Prix. But wait and see. I mean, it's a long circuit. We have seen Williams going very well there in the past years, and it's going to be a difficult race, but a race where we should as well be competitive.
Michael, thank you. Now, gentlemen, if you'd like to speak in your own languages, starting with Michael.
So, the concluding remarks from a well-won Belgian Grand Prix from Michael Schumacher, an easily won victory for him. And as he said, he can never tell how it's going to be, but today they really were in a class of their own.
Yes, I mean, very modest, I think, in his comments, and he knew that he had a pretty good race car. But also, he drove a fantastic race. He just got the lead. He had Rubens behind him for 5-6 laps, but inevitably, the pace that Michael was then able to run at for those sequence of laps, where he just knocked every lap virtually a new lap record, ending up on 1:46.933. I mean, it's just awesome what the guy is capable of doing. And consider he started Formula One in '91, and here we are in 2002, and he drives with that commitment, that spirit, that desire to win, where other drivers, when they get to that stage in their career, they're beginning to get tired, they're dissipating their efforts into other areas, maybe other business interests, or they're just, had enough. But he's just so young, so fresh, and he loves it. And I think it's the success breeds success. It simply is a matter of that. And with people around him, such as Ross Brawn, Rory Byrne, the entire Ferrari team, Jean Todt, who in a way is the puppet master who orchestrates it, it is just one fantastic team. Now, the good news is most things in Formula One are cyclic. They go round. And we're seeing a real fantastic purple patch for Ferrari. We've seen that in the past from McLaren, we've seen it previously from Williams. So at some point that dial's going to move round and it's going to be one of those other two teams. And even, don't discount Renault, because over the next couple of years, Renault are going to be a major force in Formula One. They have yet to put together the package to achieve it, but they're on course. And part of that may well be young Spanish driver Fernando Alonso.
Yes, we shall see how he gets on when he makes his debut for Renault, at least next year. Of course, raced for Minardi last year. Well, we're talking of Monza there, John, a classic circuit, of course, and a circuit, the Italian Grand Prix last year, which was had a huge pall cast over it because of it was the Grand Prix immediately after the September the 11th events, and of course that certainly affected Michael Schumacher greatly. We're looking back now over the highlights from today, a Belgian Grand Prix that saw dominance from Ferrari, but certainly in the early stages we did wonder whether Kimi Raikkonen was going to be able to make a battle of it, as he had done in qualifying yesterday. Schumacher had taken pole position, but it was Nigel Mansell's record and his own record that he was out to try and beat as we got ready for the start of the Grand Prix itself. At the start it was all about the battle for second, and Raikkonen tried to squeeze Barrichello out, but he couldn't manage it.
Yes, Jarno Trulli also tried to take advantage of a great start, but went the wrong way around. But David Coulthard fought, but Ralf Schumacher couldn't get the job done to Eau Rouge, but did a great job at the top of the hill as he came up here alongside and was perfectly positioned, dived down the inside into Les Combes, and displaced the Williams very quickly indeed.
From there on in, Michael Schumacher just pulled away. Barrichello stayed with him in the early stages. It was this mistake from Raikkonen that allowed Montoya to move into third.
And how Raikkonen kept that car on the track in control is beyond me. Here as the battle went on between the two Saubers, Felipe Massa eventually getting the better of his teammate Nick Heidfeld.
And then we saw Villeneuve hunting around, trying to find a way past the Jordan ahead, and eventually he could just squeeze past, to the delights of the BAR team. But Jenson Button, one of the first retirements out of this race, it was not going to be such a good day for Renault.
So Villeneuve dives up the inside and McNish tries to come back, but the reality was once Villeneuve was there, and a very feisty Villeneuve today, nothing McNish could do.
Up front, Michael Schumacher opened up the advantage. Takuma Sato had a rather slow pit stop on that right rear, and that dropped him to the back of the order. It wasn't a particularly brilliant day for Eddie. Things were working all right for Fisichella, but Ralf Schumacher made the mistake up at Les Combes that lost him the position to Jarno Trulli.
And Anthony Davison got it wrong in Pooh, who he said he just rode the curb of that right rear wheel, the back end swung round, and then it was that long bouncy trip across the gravel and into retirement, and that was the second retirement for Minardi because Mark Webber went out virtually, I think, at the first lap.
Massa came into the pits a little bit hot, but fortunately no one was hurt as a result, and indeed he was able to make up some ground on Alan McNish. At the end it wouldn't work out because of reliability problems. No problems at all for Michael Schumacher. Ralf Schumacher had this problem though, trying to get out of the pits. It didn't go.
And it sounded like a bag of nails as he finally got out.
Pretty amazing that they managed to get the car to the finish at all after all that. Trulli and Ralf Schumacher had their battle throughout this race, but unfortunately for Jarno Trulli it wasn't to last, as it wasn't to last for Kimi Raikkonen as well. After a well-driven weekend, engine failure counting him out.
Yes, he came out of the pits, we saw that whiff of smoke, he had a lap, and then she erupted up into Les Combes. Likewise, this battle went on, Jarno Trulli and Ralf Schumacher. Once we saw Ralf do it, then we saw Trulli, and then Trulli's race was over.
So it was all done and dusted for the Renault team. Felipe Massa blew up down opposite the pits in a big way, and as Barrichello told us, he had to find a way past. And De La Rosa.
Scary moment when the rear suspension collapsed just as he was getting on the brakes, but then we saw this from Fisichella. What a blow up, look at the rubbish coming out of the back of the car. Oil, water all over the rear wheels, the back end virtually locks up, and then within a minute or two we have Olivier Panis, and that one is a real smoker in the exhaust pipe.
Jacques Villeneuve at least did manage to make it through to the finish, despite the problems for a couple of the other Honda users like that, and Sato also did make it to the end. But Michael Schumacher once again proving Ferrari's speed and reliability, taking their 50th podium finish in a row and becoming the all-time record holder for number of Grand Prix victories in one season, and indeed for number of Belgian Grand Prix won.
Well, there's the spring. It's maybe not just quite as springy as it was maybe a decade ago. Nevertheless, what a fit man, and what a wonderful testament to the period of Formula One that he is now dominant and continues to dominate, and I have no reason to think he's not going to do so next year also.
No, it's not going to be any easier to beat him, but I'm sure the other teams will be working throughout the winter into next season, working to try and find a way to close that performance gap. So the results there, just confirming those on your screen at the moment. Everybody making 2 stops except for Fisichella, remember, but unfortunately that all came to nothing when the engine expired, so we wouldn't really know. I think it would have gained them quite well, considering his starting position. He started 14th place, so Fisichella would have gained a bit of ground by doing it. It was worth the risk, but the engine couldn't quite hold out to the distance.
No, and it's always a gamble. Depending on where you're starting, you know, there's a point at which you've got to decide, no, it's not worth making 2 stops. If we can run and not hurt the tyre too badly. Of course, that decision is only made after qualifying, and you make your tyre choice prior to qualifying, so you have to then think about, well, we have made a tyre choice. Is that going to see us through 22 laps, which is what Fisichella did? He went to exactly half distance before he came in. It was a very good stop. Jordan got him back out again, but sadly that Honda engine, as we've seen all weekend, Honda engines have been like hand grenades, and there will be some campers walking down. This is going down towards Eau Rouge. He will seek out a souvenir of this afternoon's Belgian Grand Prix in the form of a part of Giancarlo Fisichella's Honda engine.
So the pack-up operation begins, 2-week gap to the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Last year that witnessed Montoya's first Grand Prix win, his only Grand Prix win to date. We expected to see more victories perhaps coming this year, but with the advantage that Ferrari have shown, it's been a little tough for anyone else to score a win. Ralph has of course taken a victory this year in Malaysia. David Coulthard took a win in Monaco, but every other Grand Prix so far this season has indeed been won by one Ferrari or the other, mostly by Michael, with Rubens getting in there a couple of times. We go to Monza, John. Last year Williams certainly were quick there. He had pole position, Montoya ahead of both Ferraris, but I can't really see the prospect for that this time.
Well, it was a circuit where the Michelin tyre certainly worked very well. It's a circuit which is about horsepower, about top speed, about aerodynamic efficiency, and it's all long straights, and relatively now these days, tragically, other than the Parabolica, stop-go chicanes. The final chicane, the Bialone chicane, that is actually quite a good corner, but it's about, for me, the best corner that remains on what was once a great Grand Prix circuit. Nevertheless, it still is the cathedral of speed to me. It's one of those magic places to watch a Grand Prix, to hear and see a Grand Prix car going past the pits at 200 miles an hour. That's what they will be doing, and they'll reach about 210 or maybe more before they have to brake into that revised first chicane.
Just looking at the fastest laps, look how Schumacher had a lap that was up to a second faster, well, over a second faster in fact, than his teammate Rubens Barrichello, and 2 seconds faster than Montoya, which really bears out that gap that he developed during the race. He was indeed pulling out 2 seconds a lap to the Montoya in third position.
Yeah, and credit to both David Coulthard and to Juan Pablo Montoya. Coulthard had his fastest race lap on the penultimate lap, and Montoya had his fastest race lap on the final lap. So both drivers were really hustling and racing to the limit of their machinery and to their tyres until the checkered flag.
Yes, well, as the fans look for those little mementos that they can perhaps take away with them, and we turn our attention to Monza. Just worth making the note that, as I mentioned, the events of September the 11th certainly were in everybody's mind last year at Monza, and in fact Michael Schumacher and Giancarlo Fisichella are going to be amongst some Formula One stars taking part in a charity football match at Monza on September the 11th, and they will be raising money for the victims of last year's terrorist attack. So it's good to see that. Fisichella and Michael, of course, always very keen football players anyway, and taking part in that charity match that will occur just before the start of all the race action over the Monza weekend.
Just catching up on the Sky Channel with Ross Brawn and saying that, yes, they pushed very hard at the beginning of the race. In fact, today, with the weather, the temperatures being that little bit lower, Ross said he thought that Michael did have the tyre advantage over Rubens, but at one point they actually began to think that both McLaren and Williams could be on a one-stopper. They weren't sure, because the rate that they were pulling away indicated that, well, maybe they have got a lot of fuel on board, and therefore we need to keep the pressure, we need to keep to push. But of course, once they all then made their first pit stops, the story was untold, and then they knew precisely where they stood and what they really had to do for the second stop and then for the final run to the flag.
Yes, and it all proved to be quite easy, didn't it? It's funny how some of the Grand Prix this year we have seen Ferrari's domination, and other Grand Prix it has been a much closer run battle. I mean, just think back to Manicourt. I know perhaps that was a bit of a misread situation because Michael had that pit stop penalty, didn't he? And therefore Kimi was in a position. But the McLarens were much, pretty close to the pace of the Ferraris there. At Hockenheim, Ralph was close to the pace of the Ferrari. I suppose it all comes down to the tyre war. And interestingly, this weekend, Michelin seemed to be ahead of Bridgestone on everything else but Ferrari.
Well, I think that's true, and I think just it illustrates what a fantastic car the Ferrari is, that it can drag the Bridgestone tyre, which fundamentally was behind the Michelin all weekend. Ferrari being the only team capable of running at the front, starting on pole position, and it was the next car up, I think, was Villeneuve in 13th. Everybody else was on Michelin, but the difficulty, I think, for Michelin was that clearly they've been under pressure to produce faster, maybe softer tyres, which worked very effectively, clearly, in qualifying. But come the race, lower temperatures, it didn't come together. And one of the problems with the softer tyre, maybe with Michelin more than Bridgestone, if the temperatures are low, the softer tyre is not as quick in coming in. Ironic, that's the way the tyre characteristic pans itself out.
David Richards making it back to the helicopter for a quick exit from Spa. And that'll make it a nice, easy journey home tonight for him. And look at the Constructors' Championship. No change amongst those guys battling for 4th place in the Constructors' Championship, because none of them were able, I'm afraid, to get in there. Renault on 15 still, Sauber on 11, and Jordan on 7. Jaguar, the only other team apart from the top 3 to score an additional point today. So that brings them on to 4 points. And that is a significant moment, isn't it, John? I mean, Irvine drove well today. I know he was a little bit fortunate in that we had a few retirements towards the end. That new front suspension, the modifications they've been making this year, it's good to see some reward.
Yes, the reward really came in qualifying, where Eddie was able to get the car onto the 4th row of the grid, 8th quickest. That was what allowed them to get to be in position, to get out of that battle that was going on with the 2 Toyotas, the 2 Saubers and the BARs. He was ahead of all that, and therefore he was in position when the opportunities arose through other people's misfortunes. And sometimes Jaguars are unlucky. We saw that with Pedro de la Rosa this afternoon, and the other time they were lucky. So it's the rub of the green, and it worked for Jaguar, it worked for Eddie, and just backed up the fact that Eddie Irvine, whatever people might say about his position in Jaguar, he delivered today for the team. They did a good job, well prepared, good reliability. A good job all round. I think there'll be a few celebrations within Jaguar tonight.
Interesting to see Jensen still around. He hasn't packed up and gone home just yet, despite it being a very disappointing Grand Prix. One of the early retirements in this race, of course. So it's a bit of a Belgian Grand Prix weekend to forget for him.
Yeah, he may not have been able to get back to the pits particularly easy, because he was on the part of circuit where there's no direct access back to the access roads that are all the way through the forest back to the pit lane. And he may just have sat out and watched the Grand Prix, and he's only just returned now.
Yes, could well be. He is 7th in the championship, as you see, just 4 points ahead of Heidfeld, and Fisichella tied there on 7 points, and then a list of drivers on 4 points, which Eddie Irvine has now joined. Alan McNish, one of those not to have scored any points this season, running out of opportunities, of course, but Monza may well suit the Toyota, although, having said that, they've got great engine power, but at Monza you do need to be able to use the curbs a little bit through those chicanes, and I wonder if that might hurt the Toyota a bit.
Well, that's been an area where they've been weak. They know that they're not very good on curbs. They know they're not particularly good on bumpy circuits. But again, those very long straights in Monza will suit the Toyota horsepower, but it may not be enough to see them elevated beyond where they were today. The best they were, or I should say yesterday, the best they were able to do in qualifying was Alan McNish was 13th. And Nicasalo in 9th.
Michael getting an extra little cheer as he does more interviews, and all the media trying to grab hold of the man who sets new records once again. And it's a good party atmosphere down there as everybody begins to make their way home. I'm sure there'll be some British fans who perhaps will stay overnight here before heading back on the ferry tomorrow.
Well, there we go, a little bit of entertainment. And clearly an audience very appreciative. And we cut back to the Brit with his hat and not quite a t-shirt, I would put it a shirt.
Well, as we said, there are fans from just about everywhere here. And next time out, Monza.
She's a Ferrari fan after all.
She's a Ferrari fan,
yeah.
Yeah, well, I expect she'll be in Monza.
She's not really a prancing horse, but I'm sure she's a, let's say, I think I'll leave that one.
Probably wise, yes. Well, as I say, it is a party atmosphere, and I think the parties for the Ferrari fans will continue deep into the night, although they're getting quite used to all this. I don't quite understand the significance of that one.
I'm not sure either, and Well, I mean, there's the obvious one, but I don't quite see how it slots into this weekend's Belgian Grand Prix.
No, absolutely. So in a couple of weekends' time, we will be back with you once again for all of the coverage on Sky Digital. We will start with the Friday free practice sessions, the Saturday free practice and qualifying sessions, the Sunday warm-up, and of course the Porsche Super Cup race. It will be another Super Cup race before we head out to the States. 3 more rounds of that championship to go as well, and 3 more Grand Prix to go in this 2002 season. Monza will provide us lots of Ferrari fans. We've seen lots of them here this weekend, but it is all about the passion of the Tifosi, and they will be there to celebrate what has been Ferrari's most successful Grand Prix season, wrapping up drivers and constructors titles, taking record number of victories, and there promised to be a wonderful atmosphere there. It really will be a celebratory weekend, I think, and Michael Schumacher will lead the party. But first of all, he'll be trying to take win number 11 of the season. Williams will be out to try and take victory, having won there last year with Juan Pablo Montoya. McLaren showing very, very strongly in recent races, showing that they are a real threat to Williams over the coming events. And while Ferrari might be out in front, it's going to be a tremendous battle with them and behind them, with the likes of Renault and Sauber too. We're looking forward to that race in a couple of weeks' time. I hope you'll join us for that one. Thanks for your company over the last few days here at Spa. From Ben Edwards and John Watson, bye-bye for now.
Michael, now what he went on to say though, I'm just hearing, he's talking to him, I was very lucky because my gearbox was dodgy and it was about to go on that, would have gone on the last lap, so you were in fact right there.
I might have actually preempted it. I think that what he's saying there about not winning in Monza is that he feels his time's going to come now when he's going to have mechanical failure, and he's saying it's going to happen in Monza.
I wonder when it is going to come.
I mean, this is, as Nigel was saying earlier in the programme, this is unprecedented. For someone to go on winning, and also a team to have had a car that hasn't broken down now for over a year. It's just, in Formula One, it's never happened before. But then Michael Schumacher's never happened before in Formula One. There's never been anyone who's won so much and so often and so easily and had so much dominance.
So you think the driver has some effect on reliability?
He has some effect on something. I mean, he's had an effect on the team. He's galvanised. His presence has a creative effect on the people around him to winning and to producing these kind of results, where he's won more races than anyone in one season and all the other things that have come today. But he doesn't want to be arrogant. I like that. You know, by winning in Monza or going to Monza expecting to win. So he's getting more humility as he gets greater. He's
the only person in the world that doesn't expect him to win in Monza in 2 weeks' time, and that's going to be an amazing show of emotion of the Tifosi, the Italian fans that come out. And if you don't like Ferrari, don't go to Monza in 2 weeks' time, because it's just going to be a pilgrimage to these guys. It's just going to be quite amazing to have all the Italians just go wild there.
I love a bit of body language, and I was just trying to watch Juan Pablo after the race and the scenes after the race, and he looked pretty glum, he looked pretty flat. I don't know whether that was the prospect of getting straight out of his car into a van with Michael Schumacher, but he seems fairly low. Now, is that down to the fact that he's not winning, which is fairly obvious, or the deeper problems there?
No, I don't think there's deeper problems. I think he looks like that because he knows he'd like to win, and he will do soon.
Race ended. I shouldn't have said to Ron Dennis that he had every chance of getting a podium position, because DC just missed out. He's talking now to Peter Windsor.
David, a very, very, very strong race, David. Well, tell us about that tyre choice and how it worked out for you in the race, first of all.
Well, obviously, I'll never know what the softer tyre would have performed like, but certainly race balance was tricky. But obviously competitive with thanks,
Norbert Haug.
Yeah, obviously competitive with the Michelin, with the Williams. They still had an advantage in that middle sector, which was the key to the lap, and Juan Pablo was really quick in that middle sector, and he opened a gap, and I was trying to push to keep the gap, because I felt that we'd probably be going longer, and if I could keep within a second, then we could be looking good, but I just couldn't do it, and at the end it didn't really matter. He was just playing with me.
He was just playing with you?
Well, if you got 10 laps to go and you're in the front, then yeah, he looked like he was pushing. But there's a difference between pushing to a pit stop and pushing to the checkered flag.
How much was he holding you up in the last phase of the race? How much quicker could you have gone on a free road?
Yeah, I think I probably could have gone half a second quicker, you know, bold statement to make, but on this track that's very easy to pick that up. If you notice, just before the first stop, when both Juan Pablo and Kimi pitted, I suddenly went half a second quicker, and I didn't think I was being held up by them by that much, but I think you just pick up the dirty air, and it's amazing how it takes away the grip.
You've made some comments about Juan Pablo recently. How was he driving this time?
He's a great driver. I've never tried to take that away, and you know, obviously we've spoken since then. But no, I just want to know that we can run wheel to wheel in racing, and you know where you stand. That's all.
Would it surprise you to learn that Sam Michael was saying that from the pit wall they were changing his shift patterns to make him very quick at the end of the straight?
Well, that's technology being used, and that's probably quite a wise thing. You know, I can drive that from the cockpit, which I think is ultimately a better thing, because unless the team obviously inform by the radio, because then you get so into a rhythm of when you get a gear change, then if you're changing your, you know, lifting your RPMs on the shifts, and you need to know where that's going to happen.
Thanks very much, Dave.
Thanks.
Ron Dennis once told me that he liked Sky movies for the same reason he liked motor racing. He likes seeing things that come round and round again, and I imagine if you are a team boss, DC is more likely to bring your car back round again than most other drivers.
Yeah, he's had a good season. I mean, if you remember back to Monaco, it was a great driver. He's matured, and he doesn't do the same sort of mistakes. He doesn't make the same sort of mistakes he perhaps used to. But you know, the clock is ticking for David. He's got another season or so with McLaren. That'll be his 7th season with the same team next year. But you know, you do get the feeling that he's a kind of stopgap. If it doesn't go well with Kimi, then David's there to catch the result.
OK, let's quickly move on to some of the key team members around the pit lane, starting at Ferrari with Ross Brawn.
Ross, very nice trophy there. Which one is that? Is that the constructors or the drivers?
Constructors.
Yeah, I assume Michael wouldn't give you the drivers.
We've got a nice collection at home now, in the factory, so...
Well, there must have been something wrong with his performance today. Come on, criticise it.
I can't. I mean, the start system worked perfectly. That was where we thought we'd be at risk, and it worked very well. And Rubens made a place as well, so it was a perfect race. And I think Rubens probably didn't have the better tyre today, with it remaining cool. Michael's tyres held together very well. We didn't know at the beginning of the race what the others were doing. We wondered whether maybe they were on a one-stop, so we kept pushing at the beginning of the race. And then obviously when they came in, we backed off.
What a great feeling that must be when you know they're on a two-stopper.
It is anxious. I mean, people might not believe it looking from the outside, but you know, you have a lot of anxieties during a race. They start off with the strategies, and then they finish with the reliability. You saw a lot of engines going pop today. So you do get anxious during a race, even one as straightforward as that.
Let's just talk about that word reliability. Try and sum up a reason why you have found such great reliability over the last 12 months.
Well, I think it's been pretty good the last few years, and
I'm just thinking of Michael's podium finishing record.
Yes, no, I mean that's exceptional. I mean, if you told me we could do that, I wouldn't have believed you. And as it goes on, people become even more dedicated to making sure it continues. And the attention to detail that we have at the factory impresses me. So, very good quality control systems. We've had the same people working at Ferrari a long time, some of them 20 years, and they really, really do a good job, and you see the results.
Very, very great. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks.
Jaguar, of course, got a point today, which is brilliant news for them. How welcome do you think that news is?
It's come at a crucial time because there's a lot of pressure on people in Ford to drop Jaguar from Formula One because it's costing them a lot of money. And if this is the start, albeit a very late start in the season of things coming good, then it's very welcome.
Owner of that point is one Eddie Irvine, who's talking now to Baz Hodson.
Eddie, P8 on the grid, you must be pleased with the points finish there.
Yeah, obviously if you qualify 8th, you have a good chance of getting points. It's a shame more people didn't break down. Normally, you know, 2 or 3 people would break down, so it would be a bit higher, but 1 point's not bad.
What do you think it's made the marked improvement here over the weekend for Jaguar?
I think we had a big tyre advantage in qualifying, which helped us get to the front of the rubbish, if you know what I mean. And then the race was just a matter of being quick the first 2 laps after the pit stop. The rest was just a matter of just driving around.
And do you think this is going to continue now on towards the next races and the end of the season?
I think we'll be stronger. The next races are not maximum downforce. Maximum downforce is where we struggle.
OK, thanks, Eddie. Well done.
Well done indeed. I wonder how valuable, we know how important it is to Jaguar. How important is that point to Eddie Irvine, do you think?
Well, any time your contract isn't signed, I think that it's very important to get a good result. But I mean, I'm not suggesting that Eddie's got a good result just because his contract is signed. This weekend, it came together just at the right time, just at the crucial moment for Jaguar and for Eddie, I think.
Okay. Another Ford-connected team. You don't really know what to call them, do you? Really, Jordan. Very unlucky today, I thought, because that was a bold strategy that almost paid off. It could
have paid off if the car was quicker. I mean, it goes without saying that they would have finished higher up. But I think if maybe McLaren or if Williams had been able to make that one-stop strategy stick, that could have really proved very, very different. But sadly, it didn't work out exactly for Jordan. Earlier in the race, I said that if we pruned the Ferraris, it was quite entertaining. I think that's something that David Coulthard has, hinted at anyway.
Yeah, I mean, their battle towards the end would have been fantastic if it had been for the lead. You know, we would have been on the edge of our seats and saying what a great race that was. Unfortunately, you know, we haven't got competition in the one team at Ferrari. You know, we've got complete dominance by one driver there. I don't know where Rubens was this weekend. He did a great job, but you know, he wasn't able to touch Michael. Your prediction for next week, or the week after next, in fact?
They probably win next week.
It'll be win number 11 for Michael Schumacher, I think, in Monza. Although don't forget that Juan Pablo Montoya, incredibly, has only ever won one race, and he did it at Monza last year. So there's a little glimmer of hope to leave you with.
Let's hang on to it, gentlemen. Thank you very much. So another win for Michael Schumacher, another record, another trophy. Only one other circuit predates Spa-Francorchamps, and that's Monza in Italy, of course, and that's where we are in 2 weeks' time. Sky Sports 1 has a preview for that race on Thursday week at 7, and here on Channel 434 we have practice sessions 1 and 2 on Friday, starting at 9:30 a.m. On Saturday it's practice 3 and 4, and that starts at 7:30 in the morning, followed by qualifying at 11:30. Sunday has warm-up at 8 a.m, and that includes the next round of the Porsche Super Cup, and then the race build-up starts at midday. My thanks to Damon and to Jeremy, to John Watson and Ben Edwards for the Super Channel commentary. For Michael Schumacher, Spa-Francorchamps has indeed been a long and winding road. Monza is next, where Juan Pablo Montoya, as Jeremy was saying, celebrated his first ever win just last year. Well, let's hope, for all our sakes, he can offer a challenge to Ferrari in 2 weeks' time. Bye for now.
Truly really does come unstuck, doesn't he? He tries to make that big run down the outside, but loses a number of places, unfortunately.
Truly perhaps trying to compensate for his very poor start in Hungary last time out.
Yeah, I mean, Truly is one of these guys who's exceptional in qualifying. It goes into the first corner, doesn't really make the most of it, and Ralf Schumacher's a little bit like that. They're very much alike.
We said very nice things about Kimi Raikkonen before the Grand Prix today, but he had a pretty disappointing afternoon, didn't he?
Proved me wrong, yeah. I predicted it was going to be tough on this this race, but it didn't come together.
He got pressured, didn't he, by Juan Pablo Montoya, and had a moment, Mark, where he got out of shape and did well to keep on the circuit.
He really did get out of shape. Watch him go into the corner here. He has a big recovery from that and loses time there to Montoya, who manages to get him that spot there. Look, it's a massive slide, huge. I mean, trying to recover from that takes a lot of effort and skill, but a little bit lucky as well.
Sure. What do you feel about Kimi Raikkonen, Tony? Was he a bit overawed, perhaps being up there on the front row for the first time?
Well, they talked about the tyres at the beginning. Other people talked about his inexperience, you know, up against the mighty Ferraris and Schumacher here, and whether he could do it or not. But, you know, he just goes for it 110%. Absolutely flat out from the start. We've seen him in other races. He should have won the French Grand Prix, for example, so he's got it. And it's clear that Ron picked the right guy. Between him and Heidfeld from Sauber, choosing Kimi Raikkonen was absolutely the right choice.
Perhaps David Coulthard's choice of tyres for the race actually helped him as well. Let's look at Anthony Davidson, his last outing for Minardi, and when Louise spoke to him afterwards, he was absolutely furious that he'd made this mistake.
Yeah, but I mean, he's absolutely gutted by this. This is not what he wanted to do. We're talking about a guy who's won the Formula 3 Masters here at Spa. He knows his way around here. So I don't know why he made that mistake, Mark.
I think just inexperience, full stop. There's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He knows this is the only race he's got at the moment for the foreseeable future. And he put one wheel wrong and got caught out.
You know all about learning the art of Formula 1 racing. How valuable an experience has these two races in the Minardi been for Anthony Davidson?
A lot of experience gained, but unfortunately for Anthony, he didn't finish. And you really do need to finish the Grand Prix, then people can take a look at you and see if you're going to be a complete driver. He's yet quite to prove that.
It's a harsh old word, this, Tony, isn't it? And people look at Anthony Davidson and said, yep, all very well, but 2 DNFs, and are they good enough credentials for people to be grabbing him for next season?
Well, they remember your non-finishes and say, oh, right, OK, what did he do, looking at the sheets and so on. It's one thing going back to his testing job at Monza next week with BAR, but it's another thing actually racing. Remember that he's gone off twice. But I do feel that he has the talent and he could make it, but he will be kicking himself tonight. He'd be very disappointed.
It's fair to say that Spa claimed quite a few victims, only 11 running, those engines running at the end. I mean, I think they're in full power at close to 70% of this circuit. A lot of them paid the price for that. Kimi Raikkonen, one of them, Mark.
Kimi, yeah, a huge blow up there and a huge disappointment for him. But the problem is these engines are under so much load for so long, and inevitable things do give.
Yeah, let's have a word with Ron Dennis, the McLaren team boss. David Coulthard, of course, up there among the scorers.
Well, Ron, a very solid 4th place. Could it have been more?
I think it would have been a lot more competitive if the ambient temperature was higher. Again, we'd have really thrown out the window of operation the tyres, and it's not an excuse, just a reason. Would have been better if it was hot.
David was right on Montoya's tail at the end there. Were you encouraged by that?
Well, I don't think our competition is Williams, BMW, actually. I mean, they might be the cars directly in front of us, but we're here to win.
And what about Kimi's problem? What was it?
I had an engine failure, which was pretty apparent, but again, main trouble is just not getting enough heat into the tyres.
And are we seeing McLaren back on an upward slope for the end of the season?
Well, we come to every race and try and win it, you know, so we're not going to back off, and there are other things which we hope are going to improve the car through the balance of the season, so who knows.
Ron Dennis. Well, David Coulthard won here a few years ago. Let's get his view of his performance this time round.
David, just slightly too high mountain to climb to get onto that podium today.
Yeah, the key was obviously that middle sector, and obviously the team were on encouraging me to go a bit quicker, but I really couldn't do any more at that time. Inevitably, the last set of tyres felt a bit better because as the track rubbers in, you get more grip, and also there's less fuel at the last stint. By then, it was very difficult because Juan Pablo was quick when it mattered, which was in the middle sector.
But on the whole, a positive weekend?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think from a team point of view, we take a positive from that. We've all moved forward in quali. If you look at where we were relative to Williams, obviously Kimi's performance in the soft tyre was very good as well. We weren't able to use that in the race, but it could be very useful, that sort of performance in Monza. So obviously we'll be working hard with Michelin to try and get the best qualifying tyre we can. I think I'll probably go for qualifying performance. In saying that though, Monza, there's a strategy that most people take there, that if you can hang on in there with a good tyre, then that could be the key to winning the race.
There's an air among the competitors, Ferrari's competitors, is they're well and gone. You know, they are miles ahead of the rest. How are the pack going to catch up, Tony?
Well, if you take McLaren, for example, I mean, first of all, they've made engine developments. There's still this big rumour that Mercedes could take it in-house, but they made a step here, an important step. And they've taken this guy, John Sutton, from Ferrari, who was directly involved with designing this super-duper trick transmission which Ferrari have got. He knows all about it. It's no secret that McLaren next week are testing a new rear end to the car, so they're not giving up the track. And all these components will, of course, be adapted into the 2003 designs. That's what they're working on now.
OK, let's look back at the race. A couple more instances. Giancarlo Fisichella, the Italian. Bit of a Roman candle, his Jordan looked like at the end of it.
Yeah, definitely fireworks here. That's a major blow-up. I mean, that's a big mess, I can tell you. It's incredible what goes on with the inertia when those engines blow. I've seen holes in the tarmac being produced. And the big problem, like Martin pointed out in the commentary, is that the engine guys cannot analyse what's left. And it's very difficult to them to see what's gone wrong.
And what about the driver guys? When you're in there like that and something like that happens, what are your emotions?
When it's on fire like that, get out quick. But no, it's basically you just clutch it, you know, try and slow down as quick as possible and try and save the engine so that the guys can look at it and analyse it and see what went wrong.
And any feelings, Tony, about why so many engines blew up here today?
Well, apart from the stress and strain put on a racing engine, you do have to remember that you are also doing your development, particularly Honda, in public, because they've got another 2 steps to come on their engine. But like other people, they've got their new design all ready for next year, and they're working on the new model of it. But whilst you're stressing and trying new things, you take that risk of them blowing up. Everyone's done it. BMW, Mercedes, they've all had those huge, embarrassing blow-ups.
Sure. There was an interesting, before he blew up, incident involving Giancarlo Fisichella, doing a bit of weaving. Now, I thought you weren't supposed to do that, Mark.
Well, no, you're not, but Giancarlo actually did a very good job at doing it. I think, you know, morally there is a code between the drivers. One move is OK, more than one move, especially to the other side of the circuit, like we see here. You look, he fades him, Jacques gets a little bit concerned and tries to go the other way, and Giancarlo moves across again. Takes his line, takes the air off the front of his car, very frustrating. And not proper conduct.
Surprised he wasn't punished for that?
A little bit, actually, yeah. It's quite blatant there and very obvious on the TV, but he got away with it.
OK. Well, Jaguar had a good day here today with Eddie Irvine's point. Nicky Lauda, the team boss, he's had some terrible times this summer, and here he is with Louise.
OK. Nicky, was that elation or relief or a bit of both in the Jaguar garage?
A bit of both, because we had a terrible time until now, and at least Eddie today did a very good job, finished 6th, so we made 1 point. Unfortunately, Pedro had a problem with his rear suspension, as we all could see, so we have to see what's wrong there. But it's a bit of a relief, to be honest.
Eddie said to us yesterday after qualifying that this really was the team's best chance of getting in the points again, but how confident were you that he could do that?
Well, first of all, he did a perfect race. Started in 8th, was 8th on the first lap. Normally, cars stop here on this circuit, so 2 stopped then, so therefore he was 6th. It was a tough race for him, but he did a perfect job, and we couldn't expect more.
Think he did a good enough job to keep his seat for next year?
This we're going to discuss later, but certainly today he did a very good job.
Thanks, Nicky.
Good stuff from Jaguar today after a tough season. We've had 1 or 2 emails from you about the Belgian Grand Prix. Helen Rainsford from South London saying, as impressive as Anthony Davidson, the rookie, has been in his first 2 races, he's spun out of both. Right, Mark, she's put you on the spot here. Will he be back in F1?
It's a difficult question in many respects. I think he's done enough to quantify that he should be in Formula 1 as a driver. I'm just a little bit concerned that his results, you know, the end results, have not been good enough to actually say he should be definitely back in Formula 1. And that's, you know, testing is next week for him in BAR. He's got to use that testing now, get more experience, and see whether he can get another break into maybe a Minardi or a smaller team again. But get to the finish of Grand Prix, prove that he can do the distance, and maybe, you know, outgun his teammate. He's nearly there, but not quite.
It's a bit marginal. OK, another email has come in. Welcome them all, of course. Daniel Stone from London, his 10th win of the season. Michael Schumacher has made history this afternoon. Tony, will anyone ever overhaul his record?
Well, again, you know, it's tough to say, but we said that when Jackie Stewart had 27. You know, we said it when Ayrton Senna got 41, and now Michael Schumacher's got 63. It could be with more races coming up in the future that, you know, a star could emerge. It could be someone like Montoya who could get into this dominant position. And it's the dominance that's taken it. McLaren has been twice dominant. You look at them during the 80s, it was unbelievable. So somebody could do it.
OK, Tony, Mark, thank you very much indeed. Let me just tell you that Murray Walker's autobiography is going to be launched next week, and you can chat to Murray on the ITV F1 website tomorrow lunchtime.
See that later, hopefully.
Here's the start from Coulthard's perspective.
Look at that jump that Trulli got. It was absolute light, but then he got boxed up round the corner, almost got punted sideways by one of the Williamses, and DC actually just hung it all together, kept it very neat and tidy on the inside, and great start from David Coulthard. But the Williams just seems to have the jump there.
He thought discretion was the better part of valour there, and let Ralf Schumacher go ahead of him up through Raidillon. But of course, that put him in a good position to get a toe up into along the straight after that, and he made a good use of that start.
Let's have a look at the move that Montoya made on Raikkonen and see how he got past him.
Well, that's a bit of a strange one, you have to say. I mean, Kimi Räikkönen was on the right line, and yet Montoya seemed to be able to dive down the inside.
Looks like power, didn't it? Didn't if he just got straight past him on power, but Räikkönen he went fairly wide. Was it too wide, though?
There's something else we didn't see there, because you know, that's not possible. That's not normal to see that sort of line being. It looks like Kimi Räikkönen had to lift off somewhere, and Montoya was able to just drive through on the inside.
So we reckon a mechanical problem, not just...
No, I don't know. I'm not sure whether it was a mechanical problem or whether he just got it wrong on the entry to the corner and actually lost a bit of time.
Button, Jensen, hard luck. What was the problem?
I don't know, really. I mean, it just got very loud and I lost a lot of power at turn 7 after the back straight, and that was it. They came to a halt before turn 13.
Jensen, Damon, any exciting moments in the race for you, or was it, what's the key difficulty with Spa? I mean, were you able to get a good toe on anyone at the start?
I was able to get past Salo at the start, but no, the launch control didn't work like it normally does. I don't know why. Very slippery surface, and I was only able to get past one car, which wasn't great. But Eau Rouge is still interesting. I mean, everyone says it's boring now, it's flat, but in the race it's not. The car's hitting the ground quite a bit, and it's quite hairy.
Jensen, Jeremy Hart here. Give us your view now on how the race is going to pan out, especially with the McLarens and with the Williams now.
I think Kimi, probably at the second pit stops, if they're having 2 pit stops, will probably end up in front of Montoya. I don't know how close they're running, but that's normally the case with them. They seem to be able to run very strongly into their stints. And obviously the first 2 cars, everyone knows what's going to happen.
I'm afraid that might be the case. But anyway, we look forward to seeing you in action in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks a lot, Jensen.
Cheers.
Into Irvine's lap there by retirements, but nevertheless, he put himself in that position, and Jaguar have come strong. De La Rosa also showed well this weekend, and they're still fighting there, and if they make it to the end, they could get a very, very, very valuable point. Of course, Niki Lauda will be on the phone immediately to the bosses.
Even quicker than he was yesterday after they qualified.
I think actually some of them are actually there, so I think he might be able to just say, well, you know, hang in, boys, and you never know, we might end up one day doing what Ferrari are doing. OK, let's cross live now to the pit wall and join Ron Dennis. Ron, what was the problem with Kimi's car?
We suffered a failure on one cylinder.
It's desperately disappointing for him after such a great performance in qualifying.
Yes, but he's got a lot of racing in front of him, and he's on a very good and positive learning curve. He'll win races and world championships in the future.
I know you've got to cross fingers, but DC online for a podium finish. How optimistic are you?
Well, we tried to outfox Williams and nearly did it, but it's going to be difficult to overtake. We'll just have to see how the race unfolds.
Ron, how would you sum up, it's Jeremy Hart here, your gap now between you, Williams, and Ferrari? It seems to be bigger than ever now at the moment. They said that the lap times they're doing are just stunning.
I think most of the problems we're experiencing today is really just the very low ambience that we have compared to the earlier days in the weekend, and it's just switched the advantage to the Bridgestones.
Thanks, Ron.
What does it mean to you? I'm very pleased, you know, we couldn't really do anything else. I think Ferrari was too quick and, you know, we did the best we could.
What do you think for the next season? Why is Ferrari so quick, so much quicker than BMW, Williams?
I think they got a really strong package, and you know, in every single way, and difficult to beat it. You got to do something better than that.
Do you think for the next season you have the same package?
I hope so. You know, I hope so.
Juan Pablo, are you satisfied with the third place today?
Yeah, very pleased. You know, after all the weekend, you know, it's the best thing we could do.
What do you say to the performance from Ferrari?
Just too quick at the moment, and you know, we'll see what happens.
Thank you.
David, some good dueling on track. So how did you like the race?
Well, you know, I hoped to have a little bit better performance in the Williams in the race, but to be honest, in that middle stint, they really had the legs on us. So I'm sure Montoya was just taking it easy towards the end. So we have a little bit of work to do still.
Overtaking Kimi in the pit lane?
Yeah, he seemed to be struggling a little bit with his tyres. So I think race-wise, the harder tyre was a better option.
Let's talk about the gap to Ferrari. It's still that big.
Yeah, but as we know from previous years, you know, we've both been doing this for a long time. It doesn't change quickly during the course of a season. They'll still carry this advantage into the beginning of next year, and then hopefully we can start to catch them.
Thank you. There he is, master of disaster. Yeah, let's move a bit. Right after the champagne shower, Ross Brawn, Ferrari so superior. I think from now on you need a real handicap.
Well, I must admit I was astonished because I genuinely thought we were going to have a much harder race. So, of course, your immediate feelings is that maybe they're on a one-stop. So we had to keep the pace up because we didn't know. So I was pretty shocked, but fantastic.
How about the reliability of Michael's car especially?
Yes, no, that's been exceptional. I mean, we have some very, very committed, very dedicated people, and it means so much to them to get a car to a line. They've made a huge commitment to try and make sure it happens.
But honestly, it's such a big gap to the rest of the field. So what is it?
Well, you know, often I keep talking about stability. That's all I can put it down to. That all our people work together very well. They work together very well as a group. They feed off each other. They respect each other, and it is really just an exceptional period.
Michael Schumacher and Spa, the odd couple?
Yes, no, I mean, perfect, wasn't it? Pole position and led from the first corner. So And I kept telling him to slow down, and you saw what happened.
So looking a step ahead, we come into Monza, the Ferrari home Grand Prix. Can we expect just the same?
I don't know. I mean, we'd love to do it in front of the Tifosi. I don't know whether we'll do it. We'll try as hard as we can. We've got a test next week, which means that we can sort through the tyres and hopefully make a good choice on tyres. And the tyres were fantastic today. So, yeah, there's every chance, but we won't take it for granted.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. After quite a promising qualifying bad luck today, what happened?
The engine just broke.
Do you know the exact reason for it?
No.
But that wasn't the only problem today. Already at the start, it didn't look too good. Rubens passed by, and then David passed in the box.
Yeah, I had quite difficult handling all the race. I almost spun in, I think so, second or third lap, and Montoya got past me. But in the end, it doesn't matter if the engine doesn't last for the end. It doesn't matter what has happened before.
How difficult is it to cope with a situation like that after such a good Saturday?
No, it was just a bad luck, and we look forward for the next race and see what happens.
Thank you very much.
So another double week. Is it like party without end?
Well, I mean, hopefully we keep on going, but it's fantastic to have this first two for Ferrari. I was never really happy with the car throughout the weekend. I had a good qualify, but not so good. So just happy to finish second.
But it's I think maybe 1 or 2 steps to second in the championship.
Well, it makes it good. I mean, it's a jump forward, and that's quite good. I mean,
thank you.
Okay. Rubens with.
Mark Webber, very short race, unusual place to pull off.
Yeah, gearbox. I had no gears really. The lap before I had a misshift, and I also had a misshift then, so then it let go in a proper way.
We've had a bit of a wretched weekend, so I suppose it's over now at least.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I don't know why I've had so many issues, but anyway, happens.
Thanks, Mark. Anthony, unfortunately, your second Grand Prix ended up in the gravel. Was that your fault, or did something break?
It's completely my fault. Maybe emotion got the better of me when I was behind Taku, I don't know. But I was pushing on. The team were telling me to push. And the car was working so good. And the Michelins were really good today as well. So I was able to run kind of at the same pace as Taku, and he was just pulling away a bit. So I wanted to just push and close the gap a bit more. I just pushed too hard around one of the fastest corners on the track and just kicked a wheel onto the curb, and game over. So.
But were you enjoying the chase? It looked pretty good from the outside.
I was loving every moment of it. I mean, basically every one of my laps was a quali lap. I was just pushing so hard, and some laps I was actually able to catch Olivier, which was fun. It's just pushing too hard. I mean, they're long races, and I'm not used to that.
Well, I'm sure we'll see you back in a Formula 1 car, if not this year, next year. Looking forward to it.
Thanks a lot. It's been good.
Cheers, Anthony.
David, you had a great start there. You just couldn't quite catch Juan Pablo at the end.
No, in the middle stint he had just too much pace, so I wasn't able to do anything. So we have to make do with fourth place.
Okay, we've seen a marked improvement on the Mercedes all weekend. Is this going to be on to the end of the season, do you think?
I hope so. You know, obviously the duel is to try and get in front of Williams. Ferrari are in a league of their own, but we'll keep working.
Okay, unlucky. Best of luck.
Thanks. Who won the race?
Sorry. Mika, you finished the race in position 7. You must be pleased with that.
Not really, no. We scored points and we were very close today. Just, I think, less than half a second behind Eddie and bit disappointed.
Is there anything else you think you could have done that might have squeezed you up there a bit more to get past Irvine?
Absolutely nothing. I catched him up every lap by 4 tenths and just basically run out of time, and we were just a little bit too slow.
Okay, is there anything that's going to come in to introduce onto the car that's going to make a marked improvement maybe before the end of the season?
Oh, I doubt it. I doubt it. It's engine is the only thing which is improving all the time, and it's very good, and we just have to work on basically same things what we've been struggling with all year, which is traction in the car is bad, traction control is not good, and also the riding the curbs is really bad. So next race in Monza is all phase 3, so we really need to work next week in a test about those.
Okay, hard luck, Mika, thanks.
Thanks.
Gerhard, that was quite an eventful race all round for you. Could you give us some of your views on that?
Well, McLaren increased a good performance in the practice, so we've been under pressure the whole weekend, and for us it was very important to stay ahead of them and to make some points, to be in the championship, to get closer to our goal, to be second in the championship. This is what we achieved today, and it's a great result. I mean, we know there's nothing to do in the moment. To beat Ferrari is impossible, and so to finish third is a great result.
Ralph seemed to be experiencing some problems there. Were there any?
Ralph had some problems on the pit stop, had not a too good start, had a spin. So the race didn't work out very well for him, but still there was 2 points, but it's okay. Juan did a very good race. He had very good speed stop, so everything worked out for him and stayed ahead of McLaren, and that's what was very important today.
Okay, and do you think you've got enough in the bag now to keep ahead of McLaren?
Well, you never should be too sure about something until you have it, and I think we have a good advantage, but we have to fight until the end.
Okay, well done, Gerhard, thanks.
You're back with us in Belgium, where Michael Schumacher, the Spa master, has won the Belgian Grand Prix by a country mile. Michael Schumacher's 10th win of the season. That's another piece of F1 history. Barrichello closing in on second place in the championship. Montoya third, his first Spa finish. Coulthard, first British driver home. A strong drive, that one. Ralf Schumacher, so consistent, fifth. Eddie Irvine, his first finish in 7 races and the first point since Australia. Michael Schumacher has amassed 112 since Melbourne.
It's a fantastic feeling, and that's why I said, I mean, I just enjoyed that day and I just went flat out for my own pleasure. I could have controlled the race and just drive it safely home. No, but I didn't want that. I wanted to go for it and just have fun.
Rubens, Michael, just too quick for you today.
Well, it wasn't even the case to, I tried to at the beginning of the race to keep on with him. But I had a different tire, and I was hoping that the sky would open a little bit more for me, but it was just too difficult. And he had a good setup. He was quite happy with the car. I was never too happy with the situation, so it was just easier for me to bring it home more than trying to keep with him. And I knew that if it was a little bit of sun, I would have had a good chance. Other than that, no. So he was on different league today, so he deserved to win.
Ferraris, they're in a league of their own. The question was a bit of how Rubens was going to perform. He wasn't very strong all weekend, and he seemed to have a stronger car than us in the race, and we just took it from there.
A little ding dong with Raikkonen as well. What was that about?
I don't know. He was quite aggressive going down the hill. He closed it over one way, and then I went to the other, and he went all the way to the other, and nearly put him in the wall and everything. That was a bit too much.
I think Juan did a very solid job. He's obviously under pressure for the whole race. He had good pit stops and he pushed when he needed to. We worked pretty hard throughout the race to keep him in front of the Mercedes, which was quite good. We used the software throughout the race. He was changing different mappings on the straight, so he'd end up with power down the straight to stay in front of them and then changing back for the infield. So it worked quite well.
The key was obviously that middle sector, and obviously the team were on encouraging me to go a bit quicker, but I really couldn't do any more at that time. Inevitably, the last set of tyres felt a bit better because as the track rubbers in, you get more grip, and also there's less fuel at the last stint. By then, it was very difficult because Juan Pablo was quick when it mattered, which was in that middle sector.
I had a pretty good fight going into Eau Rouge in the first lap with Jacques Villeneuve. Managed to squeeze round the outside of him. And then we sort of continued our dice right throughout the first stint and a bit of the second part of the race as well. Then towards the end it was with Nick Heidfeld, and so it was quite an eventful race in that respect.
Well, when you qualify 8th, you've always got a chance. We had a bad first pit stop which nearly cost me a position, but once that was over it was pretty much just keeping it all cosy and safe to the finish, really.
Eddie today did a very good job, finished 6th, so we made 1 point. Unfortunately, Pedro had a problem with his rear suspension, as we all could see, so we have to see what's wrong there. But it's a bit of a relief, to be honest.
Rubens Barrichello now looks in shape to be runner-up behind his teammate Montoya and Ralf Schumacher, though, still in the hunt, and so's Coulthard, who scored 3 today. The Scot once again stronger in the race than qualifying. The constructors, well, that is unchanged. Williams collecting 6 points to preserve their advantage over McLaren, very much as you were for Renault, Sauber and Jordan. Tony, very much the Michael Schumacher show, but a good start from David Coulthard, using his bonds to get round that first corner.
Yeah, absolutely no problem away from the start line for Michael Schumacher, as you said, but Coulthard hugging the inside, and in particular, watch the excitement from the 2 Renault drivers. They're truly moving already. Down to the outside, Button trying to move as well, and then Rubens Barrichello goes inside Raikkonen, and that's Ralf Schumacher being picked off by David Coulthard, but truly doesn't get anywhere on the outside. He runs out of space. Here we are, and look, there's the Renault going through. That's actually Button then trying to follow his teammate, going through the inside, but there's Coulthard coming through on the inside, and he just hugging, he's getting some grip from that curb on the inside. Going inside Ralf Schumacher, you can just see the Williams outside him there.
It's a track that takes its toll of engines. I think they're at full power for nearly 70% of the time, and we saw some spectacular blowouts and only 11 running at the end.
This is the problem when you are chasing the Ferrari engine. It's as powerful as the BMW. We know that Mercedes had a development engine here, it blew up. We know that Honda are doing all their development in public. You're going to stretch the unit when you're trying to get more power of it. Race by race, they're looking for yet another step. And then Panis's Honda engine goes like Fisichella as well. Huge blow-ups, but this regularly happens in Formula One because you're stressing all the components, you're pushing things to the edge.
And pushing to the edge to try and get closer to Ferrari.
Absolutely. And, you know, Williams' problem is their chassis is not as good as Ferrari. They've got the same power, but you've got to get the whole package right.
We saw Giancarlo Fisichella, and he seemed to be making double movements to stay ahead of Villeneuve, and I thought you weren't allowed to do that, Tony.
Yeah, well, this is this one move rule, which I totally disagree with anyway. This is racing, this is what you do, this is what the younger drivers learn in their craft. This doesn't happen in the lower formula. You're allowed to do this. You're allowed to block, not quite legitimately. That means you're not allowed to weave all over the track. Look at, he's defending his position. The 2 cars were quite equal, even though Fisichella was on a bigger fuel load at the time, and eventually Jacques Villeneuve outfoxed him and got through, but it was a lovely dice, great to watch.
How big a boost is it for Jaguar that Eddie Irvine has got a point here?
It is a fabulous boost. I think it's great for Formula One. it means the future for Jaguar hopefully is secure because the top people have been here to see it as well, and hopefully they can go from strength to strength.
Strong drive from David Coulthard, so close to getting on the podium, but Williams was just a bit more grunt, Montoya.
Yeah, and I think it's a great step forward for McLaren and for Mercedes to a degree, although Kimi Räikkönen was very disappointing. And let's hopefully, with the modifications coming up for McLaren for Monza, they can get a bit closer to Ferrari.
Could be the last we'll see of Anthony Davidson this season. Has he done enough to secure a future in F1?
Not at the moment. I think he has great natural talent, but unfortunately people won't remember the two non-finishes. If he'd had a finish, they say, oh yeah, Davidson, he got it home, he got it to the finish. Disappointing for myself, disappointing for British Racing Drivers Club, who put a lot of support behind. He will be gutted tonight by that.
Final word about Michael Schumacher, a Sunday afternoon stroll through the forest for him, really, wasn't it?
Was an absolutely crushing blow to everybody else yet again, but he loved it, his fans adored it, and he just revelled in that car's beautiful, beautiful performance.
And the next edition in the story takes us to Italy, to Monza. We will be there qualifying live 11:30 on the Saturday, pre-race show just after midday on the Sunday, and the highlights, in fact, just after midnight. And official testing resumes this week. Several of the teams will be going to Monza, and they'll be searching for clues on how to get a bit closer to the mighty Reds. Good night.
If you'd like to know more about Formula One, the website address, sponsored by Toyota, is itv.com/F1.